Okay, then, I'm gonna open the meeting. It's a little early, 1 minute. But Ed has told me it's okay. So, the first order of business will be is the pledge of allegiance. Oh, you're not ready?
Let's go.
Okay, well, the first order is the pledge of allegiance. I'd like you all to join.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody, and anybody who's on Zoom. Do we have anybody in here yet?
Nope.
No, because this is a public hearing, it'll be later on the town plan. First order of business is agenda review. Does any members of the select board have additions?
I'd like to add under other business, a meeting with the elementary school administration. Well, I can go into a lot of detail later.
Anybody else have anything? Brian?
Hey, under the Old Town Business, the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Program, Stephanie Smith, state of Vermont, she's not gonna be here this evening. She's been deployed in her department to the flooded areas of the state, so it has to be rescheduled at the first meeting in August. And I have one under other business, one quick item on a right-of-way on precision lighting.
Where? Precision lighting?
Precision lighting, yeah.
And then I'd like to add media summary to back to any other necessary business.
Media summary?
Yeah.
Okay. Assume that's it. We're going to the minutes of the July 6th meeting. Anybody got any comments, additions, corrections?
I move to accept the minutes of July 6th meeting as read.
Second.
All right, motion been made and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Now we could entertain public comments on anything that is not on the agenda. All right,
So, question on that, if something was covered last meeting, would that be appropriate for public comment?
what specifically was it?
The situation with the basement of the
The
historical.
library? The library is on the agenda under Old Town Business, so we will get to that. So we'll go to the expenditures, and the first one will be the general orders. Does anybody have any questions or on the general orders?
I'd make a motion that we approve the general orders for the period of June 21st, 2023 to July 18th, 2023, in the amount of $96,918.70.
Second.
All right, motion's been made to approve the orders for the dates and amount listed in the motion. Is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Okay, the motion carries. Next orders are the highway orders. Well, Kevin, do you have the numbers on the final paving bill and
I don't.
It's in
It's on
there.
there.
it's in there?
That's there.
401,088.45.
Okay, so we had budgeted 350,000.
Right.
Does that include any of the Champlain Street repairs, no, that's gonna come in second.
That's the line item right above it.
Yeah,
No, okay, yeah, check that, sure, yeah.
And we just,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the highway orders for date 6/21/2023, July 18th, 2023, in the amount of $433,277.53.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the highway orders for the dates and amount that are set in the motion, so, is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor,
Aye.
Okay.
motion carried. Now we're gonna go on to the library orders.
ARPA.
ARPA.
Oh. Non-warrant?
I was looking at this, Lights Mechanical. Did we sign off on that when it's done? I mean, we assume everything's right.
Right, it is, it's been tested. And-
So it should be,
And it's definitely, the AC is working good, I was in there, it's nice and cool.
and the other thought I had on that, there must have been some kind of warranty on this system.
Yes, there
Yeah,
is,
okay.
and they're gonna be something on the table.
Alright. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, then.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the orders for their ARPA for 6/21/2023 to July 18th, 2023, in the amount of $33,111.34.
Second.
Alright, motion's been made and seconded to approve the ARPA orders for the dates and the amount in the motion. Is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion. Now we'll go to the library orders. Any questions on that?
I will make a motion to accept the library orders 6/21/23 to 7/18/2023 in the amount of $2,520.95.
Second.
Alright, motion's been made and seconded to approve the library orders for the dates and amounts in the motion. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we're gonna head on to payroll orders for the highway and the general budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the highway general payroll from 6/21/2023 to July 18th, 2023, in the amount of $32,578.15.
I'll second that.
Alright, motion's been made and seconded to approve the highway and general payroll orders for the dates and amounts listed in the motion. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we're going on the library payroll orders.
I'd make you want a motion, you want to
Yes.
ask a question?
Well, whatever, if you got some questions on it, go ahead.
No, I don't
No.
know.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve the payroll accounts for the period of June 21st through July 18th in the amount of $9,192.67.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, there's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, now we're down to the ARPA orders.
We did those already.
Who did? Oh. Who printed this? Okay, highway department. You got some stuff you wanna discuss with us, or?
I guess we're all set. I did the other patch on Champlain Street yesterday, so that's not, everyone's going pretty good. We've got the iron mowers on, and everyone will be going around a little bit today.
Yeah, was the other question, they started?
Yeah.
There are some people still asking about that.
So
I told them wasn't sure, but they're gonna,
we're gonna mow a little bit further out.
yeah.
Just put it on today, try to test it, working good. Going around with that.
What about the line strike?
I haven't heard back from him. He was supposed to order the paint. I will contact him and see what's up with that. I'm gonna change a culvert tomorrow on Champlain Street.
And we suffered no damage from all the rain.
We had three roads underwater and they came up, back down, didn't wash any. Cleared out pretty well.
And we were very fortunate, very fortunate.
Yeah.
Roadway, Maple Grove Estates. Have you had a chance to get up there yet?
We haven't been up there yet. Plan on it soon. I wanted to go up today and blow it all off and see what we had for the patch and stuff. So probably get that tomorrow afternoon when we get the culvert finished up.
Alright, just wanted to make sure, I know you hadn't forgot about it.
No.
I know you've been busy. And the last stuff you put in on Campbell Bay Road on the corner seems to be holding.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanna get it packed in there,
Yeah.
a little bit of seed down, mulch that too.
And you've heard nothing about Wilmore Valley Rail Trail being rescheduled, I know it's still closed, I guess that's what
They actually lost a bridge. I saw that on the news today, plus washouts and some of the trails, so it'll be a while. It's ready to go.
Alright, Kevin, I guess, does anybody else have any questions for Kevin? You might have some extra work for you,
Alright, sounds good.
if you wanna say you can. Alright, now we're going to law enforcement, and what we got is the Swanton Animal Control, but do you have?
No, there's no report. Mr. Benson just came back from vacation. He was gonna look to see if there was anything to send us,
Yeah.
but he didn't send anything, so, there's no report. So we can catch it up next time, or when, Cody's back. We'll see if I don't think Cody had anything from last.
He didn't say anything to me about that.
I don't think he had anything.
Probably not really worried about it right now. Alright, Old Town business, now we go to we're kinda gonna skip over this because Stephanie isn't here, but then again, we made a decision the last meeting to not get into this program. And I'm not sure that's the right decision anymore. Based on what's happening around the state, does it really make any sense if people have a chance to get out of here, or not get out of here, but get out of that location where they're in? Because it keeps flooding, or do we keep spending money, not personally spending money, but I mean, we end up paying for all this stuff in the end. To keep rebuilding in the same spot, it's gonna keep flooding. What this program is designed for, now I don't know about liability. I really don't think it's that big of a liability issue. Because that land's just gonna sit there and revert back to nature.
Didn't somebody say that we had to keep it mowed?
Not
necessary.
Maintained,
Not
Maintained.
necessarily.
which could just mean the right-of-way mowing, or could be very simple.
Right. Just maintain.
So maintain, if we say we're gonna let this go back to nature, that's how we're maintaining it.
How many tax dollars did we estimate we were gonna lose? 'Cause the buildings are gonna be gone.
Yep.
We're not gonna, my understanding is we're not gonna be compensated for that loss
No.
of tax income.
Well, we're gonna lose it.
Yep.
We're gonna lose that money. But with the type of weather we're having, if this keeps happening, we're gonna lose even more money. We're gonna have to start thinking about different places to build along the rivers and stuff. It doesn't make any sense anymore to keep doing that. And we went through our read 11 years ago, and now we went through another one. You know, we're fortunate here in Swanton that we didn't have much damage, but if we did,
It could have been catastrophic for some of those folks that are trying to utilize that program.
I don't know, I think we jumped too fast on that one. But if nobody wants to make a motion or to change our decision, then it'll stay that way.
I would just add a couple of things. First of all, back a number of years ago, the town had a flood plan instituted, it was approved. And in that, it was to support FEMA's efforts in mitigating any losses with flood when the situation came up. Now, the reason for not having this until this time was because FEMA's rules would only reimburse people for 75% of the fair market value, and nobody wanted to take that 25% loss. But now the state has made available the remaining 25%. So there is,
So they're at 100%.
they're now at 100%. And so our obligation under the FEMA and the flood insurance program, you know, I'm fearful this could have repercussions when it came to the flood insurance program. So that's, and I'm not sure what Ms. Smith was going to discuss if she was able to come up tonight. It was probably along that line.
Why don't we wait and reconsider the vote, Mr. Chairman, until Ms. Smith, I think,
Yes, Stephanie Smith.
until Stephanie Smith comes and chats with us, because there's probably gonna be a lot of questions.
Okay, that's a reasonable approach.
Have you been getting,
No, it's just the thought of all of a sudden we're having all this disaster.
that happened and then
Yeah, you
we
know.
made that decision and then, yeah.
And in reality, I mean, there's places that it's been a problem. It doesn't make any sense to keep spending money to,
I agree with
because
that.
that changes all our insurance rates, that has all kinds of effects across the board.
I go along with Steve's,
Yeah.
Steve's.
Does that affect anybody? There's nobody, we did have just one property in there,
We
right?
have three.
3.
Yeah.
Got 2 on 78.
2 on
and then one
78, one on
Foundry Street.
Foundry Street. And those are on hold right now. We'll see what's.
Okay. All right, then, we'll leave it till, we'll have that discussion when, Mrs. Smith gets here. Okay, update on the 4th Street property.
Okay. Well, the 4th Street property, I've been attempting to get it put on the Brownsfield site to save us money. And there will be a Brownsfield steering committee meeting on the 31st of July, and I don't know one way or the other if it is going to get on there or not. It's questionable whether it will, but then again, you know, I countered back with, you know, if there was a drain in the garage, we assume it went into the sewer system, so, you know, it didn't. So we'll have a good handle on the 30th. If it doesn't on the 31st, we'll just send out the request for proposals to engineering firms and get it done.
You know, just to make this clear to everybody, we're required to do this now, in regards to the work we did before.
Right, yeah. The rules changed When the initial assessment was done, it was at 35 by 35 foot area, and that was fine. And then, since that time, the rules have changed, and so now the soil has to be tested throughout the entire parcel.
How big is that parcel, how many acres? Acre and a half?
Yeah.
Just over an acre,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it came in as, due to the rule changes.
Now, if this goes on the regional, you're talking about regional planning,
Yeah.
brownfield sites. If it goes on their list, does that mean they're gonna start doing something, or do we have to wait?
Well, we'll see when it gets on the list, but,
Alright.
they, we'll pressure, try to get it so that it's going, so,
And that will open us up to funding through the
Yeah.
Brownfields
Right.
program to
Right. that's right.
take the solution.
Yes.
Even for the planning part, or
The planning and then
Yeah.
this, hopefully the solution.
good thing Neil's not here, because he'd be telling us about the hotel review.
Well, I've had that conversation.
Well, all right, so
We'll know at the next meeting.
Yeah, our next
we'll
meeting.
know.
we'll know for
If
sure.
it's yes
one
or
way
no,
it is,
and
yeah.
then do what needs to be done, whichever.
Okay, letter from V-Trans relative to Route 78 sidewalk. I suppose everybody saw and read that.
Yeah.
Okay. Letter's a letter. I think they kind of misunderstood a little bit of our concerns, but that's fine. The other issue now is the payback. And
Yeah. In the fund, the funds available, we have $98,617. And so they amount to pay back to the state $70,287.60. So that would leave us $28,329. We still don't know if there's some money owed to the engineering firm, as well as to Northwest Regional Planning. There'll be some fee, probably a fee there. So we do have adequate funds to cover certainly the payback to the state.
Now, before we get there, that's one of those things too. I think we did get some community input, but after reading that letter from the state, and I've read it multiple times, it really made me feel like there was a sense of disappointment there because, they feel that we're just stopping because of the right-of-way issues. Now, I've taken time to talk to the superintendent about our letter and to start talking to many more stakeholders. And there's a lot of people that are still really frustrated that we've pulled the plug on this project. Safe routes to school are really, really important. And as we talk about the municipal plan tonight, that bike pedestrian access is something that's really highlighted in that plan, as well as the Northwest Regional Plan, and as well as a statewide initiative. And that sidewalk is a connection to our neighbors, and I said that before, and I'll continue to say that. But I really, as this one-time opportunity before we have to respond back to that letter, we put so much work into that sidewalk project, and it could be so incredibly beneficial to our community that I'm still very disappointed that we're walking away from that. Very disappointed.
I understand what you're saying, Nicole, there are people, but there are a lot of people that are saying we did the right thing. At this point in time, we're gonna get all the information everything that's been, all the engineering that's been done up to the state.
That's correct.
If there becomes a greater need in the future, we're already ahead of the game.
Earl,
Yes.
so I heard you say a few minutes ago when you were talking about the FEMA that you felt like you folks jumped too soon. And I'm suggesting that that's what happened with this sidewalk project. And there's still a chance to rectify that. And I have heard only support for going forward with that project. And I said it at that meeting and I'll say it again, that all the folks who were at that meeting left agreeing to the alternative route. And I hate to see us go forward with a plan that we might be sorry for later.
Jake?
Yeah, I just want to throw my hand back in support of the sidewalk. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I feel like having a sidewalk, if we have some sort of walking path to MDU, that even if a lot of kids don't use it, that if a sidewalk exists, people are going to use it. I feel like it's important for the folks that do walk, that exists.
Do you have a number on that, Nick, on how many people would use it?
I don't have a number now,
Nobody does. So, I didn't know if you had one.
but we could definitely take a look at who tries to walk back and forth at the moment as a way to find that.
I just wanna say, if it's,
Go ahead.
I'm up there every morning, every single morning, maybe 10 days a year I miss being up at that corner by Dunkin' Donuts. And I can see that corner when I leave 4th Street going down Elm Street, so I've got a good 5-minute view of what goes on up there. I have to stop for traffic, and which I don't mind, because I wave to a lot of people I know. And I'm probably on the sidewalk another 5 minutes. In all the years I've been going up there, I've never seen one person walking just up that street. Whether they're going to school, whether they're going to buy something at the grocery store, I've never seen a person. I see them when I go to Dunkin' Donuts to get coffee after, they come through and they're going over to the, what is that, Hannaford's. But when people say that they use it, I'm there. 300 days a year or more, they don't use it. I see kids in cars, on their phones, of course. I see parents taking their kids to school on their phones, of course. I've never seen a person there.
And you don't see them, Steve, because their families don't want them walking on that space, so they don't.
Have you been told that?
Well, that's a point.
Yes.
I can speak for that.
Hold on. Yes. That's a point, counterpoint, whether, you build it and they will come. I understand, I've heard that too. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I can speak for that. I personally, as a parent, I don't let my kids walk up to school because there's not a safe way to go. You talk about regretting it in the future again, and if we need it in the future, but we don't have it now for them to use now. Like, if we don't build it and have access to it for later, it can't grow into something that gets utilized. And if you put a stop on the whole project altogether without having all the facts, you haven't done your duty on our board to look into things properly.
Yeah.
I know that originally it was set with phase 1, 2, 3, and because we borrowed the money on a full project instead of dividing it into phase 1, McDonald's, Hannaford, phase 2, Maple Fields to Frontage Road, etc. I'm neutral if you look at the minutes, I was neutral because I could see where the houses there, how it affects them and etc. But we have to have something, we have to move forward. And I don't know if those letters from superintendent or V-Trans are public knowledge, but I'd like to read those for myself too. That's pretty much it for now. Thank you.
Now the lady in the back.
I think that's me.
You.
Hi. My name is Amy Brewer. I am a health educator at Northwestern Medical Center. I submitted a letter last time because I couldn't be in person. Just a couple of things. Nobody was using the rec path before we built it either. It wasn't a space that people could be. So it's not fair to compare those two things of what we're not seeing people because it's just not safe. So you're not going to see people. People can't do it unless it's safe. So I think it's a little bit of a circular logic to say people aren't doing it because it's not present for people to use. The second thing I wanted to add is there's, I agree with Sandy that I think what people agreed on for the most part is we want a way to get our people from one space to the other. And because these are long-term projects, I don't see why we couldn't get part of it built now. If we send the money back, then we put an end to the project and no one has a plan for going forward. We basically said we're not doing this, we're not providing a plan for how we're gonna move people from one space to another safely. And I really urge you to consider, can we get people from, let's call it McDonald's, to the frontage road, and then look at that alternative. And I know Vermont V-Trans was wishy-washy, but it wasn't a hard no, and I think a letter back is a little bit of an open door to ask us to think creatively about how we can do that and provide that ability. So that's my perspective.
Wait, we got the lady over here.
Right. New on the sidewalk thing that grew up in Swanton, Heather McCoy. And I do see the concern about, we got highways, and didn't we just have like a major accident at one of the bottom of the ramps? I mean, if you're gonna do a sidewalk up that area and go past the highway, it's gotta be like Burlington safe with all the special lighting. I don't know what funds actually specifically are allocated towards it, but it would have to be like, you know, it would be a project, for sure, worthy one. But I can see where there are some concerns, it's like very, you know, tractor trailers going through and stuff. But I would have loved to been able to walk from my school, my high school, and be able to bike or anything from that. I think it would be used, but we gotta make sure that it's super safe for it to be used.
Okay, well,
You know.
Nick, we'll get back to you. Joe, you had your hand up
Yeah,
first.
just real quick, I know my letter was read, I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but in the future, let's just say you continue and say we're not doing it, in the future, you're not gonna get the matching funds necessarily. That was this program that, you know, was available, we took a look, we did our due diligence, so now, whatever, was it 2080, is that what the match is? So that amount of money won't be available in the future if one day someone says, hey, let's do it. We may have the information sitting on the shelf, but we won't have the matching fund.
Okay, Nick.
And I just want to throw it out here real quick that I don't live in the village. I live in closer to St. Albans, and I've definitely seen people walk in that general area, and I'm not here as much. So I feel like if you put the infrastructure there, it'd be more tempting for people to use.
Ed?
Well, as someone who drove that driveway for 40 years up there, when we first opened, yeah, kids were walking all over the place. They'd walk up in the morning, they'd come down to, when McDonald's opened, they'd come down for something to eat after school. But as the years went by, our parking lots had to be expanded. Didn't have more teachers. We had a lot more kids driving to school. Now, whether that was right or wrong is another question. But a lot of parents told their kids it's all right to drive to school, and they did. And I think as more kids have driven to school, fewer kids have walked. You stop and you pick up your friends on the way to school. Now, how many of them? I have no idea. But I think the number who walk to go down to McDonald's is no longer a big deal for them. Place has been there for 20 years. It's a change in times as well. But it might be a good idea to at least come up with a plan that if we ever see that it needed to be, that we could then move a little quicker. We'd have a plan in place. I've always said, from my years there, go cross country. Go up to the corner of First Street and Frontage Road. I don't know who owns all that land there, but I would think somebody would probably give us a 10-foot easement up through there. And we put a couple of lights out there and see what happens. Or else you go up along the Frontage Road where that driveway is now, you turn there. I mean, I don't know if there's enough room on the side of the Frontage Road to do that. You'd have to, I think, cross a ditch, I'm not sure. But come up with a plan and, you know, and you never can tell. All of a sudden there might be a need and people will jump up and down. Or, I hate to say it, but we've been fortunate, 50 years. And I don't recall anybody ever getting hit. So, I don't know.
Mr. Chair.
Did you have something you wanted to say, Steve, or?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that we might have missed some facts, so maybe you could share with us the facts that you think we missed, because maybe we weren't clear in our discussion about the facts.
To whom are you addressing?
Which one was?
I'm looking at, I can never think of your name here at every meeting, but I can't.
Siobhan.
Siobhan, thank you. So maybe you, if you wanted to share the facts that you think we missed, but we have a plan. if the funding's gone, there's always funding, it comes up. So it's not like it's a one-time deal, we're never gonna get funding again. We have a plan, let's just keep it on the shelf. I think we made a good decision, and I'd like to move on.
Well, one fact is, if there were a sidewalk, I would have let my child walk to school. He wasn't of age to drive, so that would have been irrelevant to him, but there's a fact. If there's a way for them to go, it's more opportunity for them to do so. And I don't know if you guys can see the angle of Dunkin' Donuts to Frontage Road, but a couple of the kids that walk now turn off on the frontage road and they don't go all the way down across the highway into Hanover and all that.
Well, if I may, Chairman, Siobhan,
Yes.
and I realize you were at the public meeting, and I really appreciate that. And one of the things that I want to point out tonight, as going forward and making that decision, you remember I polled all the property owners. I asked the chairman if I could poll the property owners. That was another issue. This started back in 2016. Here we are in 2023, 7 years later. And every one of those property owners weren't going to willingly give a right of way to the town. So, in my thought and how I came to my decision was 6 years down the road, we're still not going to be. We're going to be right where we are tonight. And the other thing is, I made it known that night, but for the people that weren't at the meeting, I didn't just say this is what we're going to do. I told the chairman, I'm gonna go set it at Maple Fields. And I sat at Maple Fields for 2 hours, and there wasn't one single kid that walked to school. And I understand where people are saying logically, okay, if there was a sidewalk, they would be walking to school. I honestly and truly don't believe that. It isn't like when we were kids. We walked to school, right, Steve? Kids don't walk anymore.
May I say something?
Yes, you may.
If there is a sidewalk, there are many different programs where the schools, and Amy's a part of it, where they organize walks to school. So if there was a sidewalk, there would be more walking because they would organize that because they have a safe route to do so. And if you look at the minutes from the public meeting, I was neutral because I feel where the owners, especially one of those houses, it would really cut off the little bit that they have. As far as 2016 and not moving any further, we also had COVID in 2020, so not a lot of anything moved forward. But I just feel like there should be more, you should look into it more as far as alternative routes, or at least finishing phase 1 and 2 and see where you can go from there before you just put it on a shelf and forget about it and waste $70,287.60, even if you do have 90,000.
Well, it's not always, we'll still have plans, there. So that we won't have to spend that money again to get to what we have.
What are the plans if you don't use them though?
Well, I don't know how many things we can do, that's another issue. We're kind of concentrating right now on trying to get this rec and center, community center going. We don't know what that's gonna be for funding. We don't even know what this sidewalk is gonna be for funding. We have the old numbers, but those are from a long time ago.
2016.
Yeah, and we were supposed to go for another grant to supplement this one. And then we got people calling us and saying, what are you guys doing? You're gonna put a sidewalk up through the interstate? We just had to establish some priorities. And I think the priorities are for the rec center and community center, get that going. The LB, our trailhead, those things to get going. And in the future, if people want a light, if there's a need for it, because the school even, they're nowhere near going to connect it. The state doesn't want to do the change, okay? You can say it's not clear. Well, it was pretty clear to me. I was on the meeting, on the Zoom meeting. They don't want to go, they're scared to go back to the Federal Highway Administration, and this is once that you get into that kind of bureaucratic it could be another 5 or 6 years before they even give us an approval, for all we know. So I don't know, I mean, I think we've done the best we can on the issue for now. And I know people are passionate, but they're also passionate on the other side. Real passionate. And if I felt it was something that could get done, and it was really gonna be fully supported, I would go for it. Right now, I don't think it's ready, it's a time to do it. And that's not to say it won't be in the future, but I just don't think it is right now.
Well, like you said, with having the plans on the shelf, you have them, and then in 5 years, you know, look at it, that's wonderful. I noticed that you said, you know, you wanna focus on the rec center, hope that's not just distraction, cause you know, I love the idea of the community center and whatnot.
No, that's
but-
not, no, that's one of our priorities. In fact, it's at the top of the list, has been right along. I mean, we may not agree on every little detail, and that's where things get tough, but, it's gonna have to happen. Okay, so that's what we're working for.
I wanna make a comment, but you had your hand up, did you wanna say something?
Well, the sidewalk, we're looking at just the sidewalk, but we're not looking into the future either. We gotta maintain that sidewalk. We're gonna have to buy a machine to maintain that sidewalk. The town is gonna have to buy a machine, hire a guy full-time, because you know, well, them trucks, the state trucks going back and forth, that is gonna be full all the time.
Do you mean like a sidewalk cleaning machine for like snow or?
Right.
Don't you guys already have one of those?
No, the village, all the kindness hired, they take care of our other ones. But we've already been told, we get any more,
We're on our own.
we're on our own. So we're gonna have to buy that, hire another guy, get more material. It's not just a sidewalk.
Well, I mean, Kevin's point is a good point, but and what's gonna happen here in the future in Swanton as we grow is, in fact, this is something we talked about in our last meeting in that master plan, and a lot of people took that the wrong way. But, we're talking parks and recreation. Then you're gonna have, like in probably some other communities where you have one agency taking care of that stuff, and they'll be taking care of the sidewalk, doesn't make any difference where the sidewalks are. We're not at that point yet. That's why I don't feel we're really ready to do this project right now, and because there isn't like overwhelming community support for it, I'd rather concentrate on some other issues. And I think that's pretty much the way the board feels too, except for Nicole. Yep.
Is it okay?
Yep.
A couple more points. One, for safety, Williston at route or exit 12, Tap Corners, just built sidewalk or rec path infrastructure underneath their interstate. Yes, so there is a way to do it. It's hard to imagine if you haven't seen it, so I urge you to kind of peek at that. Number two, if high schoolers can't get to the rec center, then it isn't, I mean, those two issues are very well connected, right? We want people to, youth need to connect to other youth and be in a safe, supported thing for their mental health, for their physical activity, for all of that. And if we're gonna build a space to allow that, we should also create a way for them to maneuver from one space to the other, right? So they can go and not have to rely on the car or their family to drive them, especially if they're not old enough to drive. And then the third point I would say is, again, I'm just gonna urge you, instead of mixing the whole thing, consider pausing on the sidewalk in front of people's property, pause on that part. But get going on the part under the under the interstate infrastructure and start moving that process so it can at least get to frontage. And I know that the engineering or the, I'm gonna get the words wrong, the study looked at both options, right? And it was the sidewalk was selected, but the frontage piece was also fleshed out, right? I'm looking at you like you're gonna be able to fill in my words, but no.
Well, I think at the time they looked on doing both sides of the road. I think the frontage, I'm trying to discussion a long time ago.
Sorry.
They wanted to go up the frontage road at one time, but that was before the road was there and before the lights were there.
So it got even better
So
to
that got better, and so they ended up choosing the option they chose just because that was, at that time, that was the best option to choose out of the, where we could go. Because they didn't want them going down and then crossing the road to get into the school. I thought that was gonna be unsafe as well.
Right. So there is somewhat of an idea fleshed out. And I just really urge you to pause on part of it, but really not stop the entire project. I'm gonna sit down. Thank you.
Well, one of the issues with that, Amy, and people don't, I guess we haven't been clear enough about that, is that if we go that route, they may not fund it anyways. Because it's a change from.
You say may, but do you know the solid answer before you put it on the shelf?
No, I don't.
Can we find those things out before we shut it down?
Well, the motion's been made and passed by the board to shut it down. We have to agree to wait to see what they got to say, but we had that as an option. That was not approved.
And also Vermont Trans wasn't,
No, well, Brian was there, I was there.
was in favor of it.
They weren't crazy about the idea, they were pretty sure that we were gonna pay all the difference.
Just a comment. I would stress too that with the current state of Vermont roads, that this project is not even in the back seats, not even in the car. Spending V-Trans money for a sidewalk when the southern part of the state doesn't even have roads to drive on. So I think they have bigger fish to fry right now than our sidewalk project.
Well, we've had this discussion several times. Okay, this is not the first time. We went out of our way to have a public hearing, public input here. I mean, we called people, I went and even saw some people personally to try to get them to go, okay? It isn't like we didn't think this project had any merit and we're shutting it down. That's not the way we came about the decision, okay? But as of now, if the board is not gonna change its decision from the last meeting, then right now, we gotta figure out, we're gonna answer that, how we're gonna address that letter. We're gonna send it back and say, we've already voted no, so we're gonna have to say that we're, that yes, we're gonna, for the time being, we're shutting the project down. Okay?
I appreciate the comments tonight. I think that they were very good, timely, but I think we made a decision based on a lot of discussion. The public meeting, the public input, and I think we made the right decision, and I stand by it. And I really think we ought to move on, and we're gonna talk about some other issues this evening.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing is the money, we'll have to pay that back. There's still gonna be money left over. There was never a separate article, I don't know how we're gonna handle this. There was never a separate article to put aside this money.
Right.
It was just in the budget. So does that mean we can put it somewhere else, or do we just leave it in there and carry it over?
That's a good question. It was earmarked for the sidewalks. It's in the highway fund, and typically if it's not used,
Joe, you got an
it goes back.
opinion on that?
I was waiting until Kathy was done.
Okay.
So it was earmarked for that. I mean, we don't even know if first of all, we don't even know if we're having money left over, because one, we're gonna pay back that money, and then two, we also have a contract we have to deal with, what the buyout's gonna be on that. And we also still have money to pay the Northwest Regional Planning, so we don't even know if we're gonna have any money out of that left.
Well, that 70,000 includes,
That goes to the state. That doesn't include our contract that we had with the engineer doing the work. We signed a contract with them, so there's gonna be some repercussion from that. I'm sure they're gonna want some money for because we had a signed contract, and then we also Bethany's been still working on this project, so we're gonna have a bill. So right now, we don't even know if there's gonna be any money left.
For sure.
I mean,
Right.
exactly, until we get everything finalized, we don't even know if there's gonna be any money left to do anything with it.
but what's been paid up to date, we don't have to repay, only the grant portion. we don't have to repay the 20%, we've already,
Well, part of that money that we paid is that 20%.
yeah.
So what's gonna happen is, the money that we haven't spent out of 20% we've been having for each year, like right now, I told you we had what, 98,000, that includes the 40,000 for this year. So already we wrote around easy numbers, $71,000 is gonna go to pay the state of Vermont, and then we still have those other two issues to deal with. So it may get eaten up in the remaining $20,000 that's left,
Or we may be in the red.
and you don't know until it's done.
Oh, I doubt if we can be in a red, we can't have that many bill people, it can't be that
It's
far
not
behind
bills,
on
it's
billing.
that, we had a contract with that company to do this job for a certain amount of money, and now we're not gonna do the job, and they're not gonna perform the service for us anymore, so there's gonna be something there that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
And we won't know that until the time comes.
Okay. Joel, you had a comment on that?
Just real quick, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, it's an item in the highway budget, just like
Right.
salt. If you don't use all the money buying salt, you might spend it somewhere else in the course of that year.
Yeah.
So to answer your question is that money stays within the highway department, not the general fund, but to be used elsewhere if there is a surplus. And about the architectural firm, the engineering firm, when you break the contract, the one thing sometimes they go after is the overhead and profit that they expected to make on the project. So they might say, okay, we'll break it, but we're still gonna expect X number of dollars, which may not exceed the amount you're talking about, but there's certainly the unknown there until you talk to them about breaking the contract.
So, we don't have those numbers tonight.
No.
There might be a clause
Towards
of
the office.
cancellation in that contract too that would allow us it out.
Yeah, that's what, but how long is it gonna take to find all this stuff out?
Well, we have a copy of the contract.
We have a copy of the contract, we've got, and just get hold of the engineering firm and say, you know, we end it now, what are you looking for?
I'm sure Bethany's been our liaison with them, I'm sure she would do
Let's
that.
not ask them what they're looking for unless they tell us they want something.
I'm sure Bethany could find that out for us.
Quick, Sandy.
Right. Okay, you're all. I don't think it's a big ask to ask the board to compromise until you do further investigation. And I hope that you will compromise. And that's such an important piece of negotiation.
Well, we're in a time frame here too, we need to respond to this letter by August 1st. We have no more meetings until August 1st.
August 2nd.
Oh, 2nd. No further.
No, because National Night Out.
Oh, Wednesday,
Oh,
that's
okay.
right, we're gonna move it back
Yeah,
tonight,
okay,
it's
yeah,
national.
okay.
So it's gonna be the second, August 2nd.
When will you know about the rec center?
I don't know how we're gonna do it. Really like to see that number, so before
We are meeting again tomorrow night, is it something,
No, we wouldn't have that,
have enough time?
I don't think so. You know, not the way things seem to take forever to get some numbers, I can say forever, it takes a while.
My suggestion or would be that Brian gives us other numbers and if we have, we'll have a special meeting.
I'm confused, you have the numbers, Ed, and then we have a special meeting, or we're gonna continue this thing for the next 5 years? Been going on for 7.
Yeah, because Ed, if you're saying that, or you're saying if the numbers, if it comes back, we're gonna pay more than we got, you're gonna change your position?
I gotta be, right up front with you all, my position hasn't changed.
Okay.
I'm just trying to have level ground with our taxpayers and the people that are here
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm only saying, I'm where I was when we voted on it.
Alright, well, cause that, and I talked with Cody tonight, this afternoon too, about it. And he doesn't want, he's not gonna change his position either, I wanna have him down. So there's lots of votes on this board to do it.
Well, if the rec center doesn't go through and we already issued on the sidewalk, what do we have for improving?
There
For
will
the
be a rec
children.
center.
There will.
There will.
Okay, I feel better.
We don't know where or how big, but there will be.
Or when.
Or what.
Okay. But it will happen.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I guess for now, does the board want to respond to this letter tonight?
Can I get a copy of that letter to read?
Yeah, sure can.
Everybody got it?
Give her a copy of the one from the school too.
Yes, please.
You want to respond tonight?
I wouldn't.
Well, then that's, I guess, do we need to make a motion to respond to this letter? I don't think we do.
Well, he's asking us for confirmation by decision. It says, please confirm receipt of this letter, all right, we got it. And indicate if the town would still like to pursue cancellation, and we're all in agreement we do. So, I guess we're responding that, yes.
All right.
Yep.
So that'll go out tomorrow morning.
Good job. I know nobody's happy, but sometimes that's the way it goes. Doesn't mean it's not something that won't happen, it just, my personal feeling is now is not the right time. We're not in a good position to do it right. All right, library building issues, and now this, glad you're here, Jason. We have problems in that library. More than one. We do need to move that stuff. Not that we, we're not throwing it out necessarily, but we need to do something in that group. And we're willing to help. You know?
So first, thank you all for your service. I understand making decisions isn't always easy. But with respect to the flooding or the water damage that's in the basement of the library and the home of the Historical Society there, we see that as two different issues. When we got the letter from the select board, based on a decision where we were not consulted at all, and apparently the library was not consulted at all, we were shocked. And there are other members of the Historical Society who are here. If they're up for it, they can give history of how the Historical Society ended up in the bottom of that building. But I can understand you saying that we're not being, or you use the term thrown out, there's a lot of work. Again, it's two different issues. That was the home of the Historical Society, given by a previous board. And I understand, and we all understand that the board has the authority to move on from previous decisions that have been made.
Can I correct you on that?
Can I say one thing?
Okay, yeah, but you've gotta understand, it wasn't the select board that approved that, that would have been the library trustees. The town has only took over the library last year. So, we wouldn't have been approving, no select board would have been approving that, because it wasn't our building to approve it.
But the town owns the building.
No, well, maybe we do, I don't know how that is.
We did.
But we had nothing, no say in it.
The letter that we received from Brian was the select board.
We do now, not when it originally started. Okay, when the Historical Society originally used that building, that was an agreement between them and the library trustees.
My understanding is that was an agreement between the town and the Historical Society.
So that's wrong. Wasn't our building to control at that time.
So, the other, I'm not good at confrontation, so I'm just gonna leave a couple of facts on the table. The decision of the board in not inviting the Historical Society back in that space. Tonight, this is my 13th hour of donated volunteer time to this issue. Contacting the rest of my board, emailing back and forth with Brian, emailing back and forth with Becky. If the Historical Society moves and all of our stuff is just put in the basement of the depot, do you expect me to organize all of it down there? Do you expect Ron, or do you expect Bruce? Like, it is an impossible task to even think about offering any sort of service and move to a new place. Like, we can move to a new place, but several of us have thought about resigning because you're asking us to volunteer more time when, you know, I got a job, I got a kid who's going to college, I got a wife, you know? And I appreciate you guys, I know you're in a position of having to make decisions, but to give us 90 days, or not even 90 days, and I appreciate the offer to help, to move the stuff, but we would like to maintain our spot in the basement of the library. It's our understanding that the select board has that authority, and we don't see the need to move.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that doesn't address the issue of the water.
But that's a different issue. I mean, the Historical Society could be invited back in once the water's taken care of.
All right, then what I think we need to do is we need to have a discussion with the librarian, with you, all of us together, to see what the future's gonna be. Because my understanding was that the library wanted to use that space if it got fixed. So I don't know, you know, I'm getting told this by you, I'm getting told this by somebody else, and I'll agree, maybe that letter could have been written a little bit different, but, you know, it's just that we assume that the stuff had a value and you didn't wanna see it in that kind of environment.
Yeah, and we appreciate the offer to, you know, if something needs to be done in the room, to get it into a space where it can be taken, you know, it can be not in the way for whatever needs to be done to the room. But we hope to maintain that space in the Historical Society, or in the library basement.
All right, Nick?
Yes, I got this letter from Bruce Spalding that he wanted me to read. I was wondering if I could read it. It's typewritten, so it's important. Good evening, my fellow Swantonians. I've resided in this great town since 1962. During those years, I've been active in many activities to make our town a better place for folks to live in, including the rescue squad, school board, hunter safety instructor, United States JCs, Chamber of Commerce, and presently the Swanton Historical Society. I know members of your board personally, and I thank them for your service. This water problem library basement has been going on since 1994. According to past librarians that I spoke to recently, not once could I find one of them to say a water test has been taken. Therefore, how can we now say we have a mold problem at this time? There is a water pump below the elevator that has been inspected to see if it is working properly. Also, in the past years, the water on the floor is believed to have come from heavy rain down the walls of the building. Therefore, how can we say it is mold or dangerous without a test, or has a test been performed? I am sad that no members of our organization was informed about the last week meeting to give our side of the story. Maybe all the buildings in Vermont has mold after the last rainstorm. There has been hard feelings between the library and the King's Daughters for years, and now with our Historical Society. The King's Daughters paid $1 for their room and had to hire attorneys to keep it. The King's Daughters tried to install metal shelves to the store for many books and discovered the weight was too heavy for the space, and now we wonder if our showcases will also be too heavy. I totally get your request and appreciate each of your own service to our great town. However, I feel we are being bushwhacked and I do not like it. Your board should not attempt this action, and I am sure that our community would be on our side. This water issue has been going on and has been used against us for several years with no testing. Be glad when 14 days pass as we may be on drier ground. Thank you, Bruce M. Spalding. And just to add some of my own words, these are my own words. I believe there was a real lack of communication. It's kind of sprung up randomly. I know for years that there has been debate about this room. I've been personally trying to keep the room more active and trying to get people there. And I feel like that getting the library together and getting the Swanton Historical Society together might be a decent idea. I think we deserve to press the case. I think the mold, getting us out for safety reasons versus us sitting there long term are different issues.
Okay, you bring up hold on. You bring up a good point, because you're right, we have an issue that maybe there is mold there. Bruce says no, but I've never actually, I've been down here, but I don't know how long it's been going on. But there is the issue, right, whether you're gonna be staying there, and it needs something that needs to be resolved, and we have to work with the library too in order to do it. So that's what we need to set up a meeting with the library trustees, the historical society, and the select board.
So does anybody want this to look at? No.
Well, I will get to you, Joe, but Steve, you had a comment?
I just, first of all, Jason, thank you for bringing up your side. You guys do a great job, and you know I've supported you in many ways for many years. You enjoy such a good reputation. I bet if you put out a call to arms, that you probably would find a lot, I hate those two words, a lot. You might find 50 people to show up that would help you make that move so you wouldn't have to do it all yourself. I'm pretty confident that would happen, because people hold the Historical Society in pretty high regard. And if you put something in the paper and made a few phone calls, I bet you'd be pleasantly surprised.
But move to where? To the bottom of the depot? There's no elevator. People can't access that. Sorry to interrupt, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather talk about how we're gonna make it work rather than keep throwing up roadblocks. Because that's all we're doing now, is throwing up a what if and this and that. Let's figure out a way to make it work. The library doesn't feel that you should stay there. Let's make it work.
Wait a minute, go back to Joe.
Yep. I'm a fan of the Historical Society, really appreciate what they do, and I'm not a member, so I just want to get that out publicly, but I'll tell you what, I was one fired up individual when I saw those minutes. And then tonight you approved the minutes, never discussed during the public part of the meeting on July 6th. You guys went into executive session. I don't know what you talked about, because that's not a real estate issue of buying a piece of land where there's a dollar figure that can put somebody at a disadvantage. Must have talked about it in an executive session. Then Mr. Bourgeois comes out of the executive session and puts a motion out to move them, when they were never given a chance in front of the board to talk about the issue with the library there. I think the board tonight should rescind their letter and rescind their motion that they made, because it's a violation.
I'm Glenn Gerwitt from Swanton. I've been the vice president and the treasurer of the Historical Society for over 20 years. I work in that library space a lot. I may go back in history in that room more than a lot of the people in the room. I maybe made a mistake by reporting the water coming into the room, because if I'd kept quiet, maybe none of this would have happened. But I had an agreement with Abby that whenever I would be in there and hear alarms going off or see water coming in, I would let her know, which I did 2 or 3 weeks ago when this all began. We've been in there enough years to know where the water comes in. It used to come through the ceiling, now it comes under the floor. But we could easily, I believe, make changes to how we store our things by keeping them 1 or 2 inches off the ground to avoid sitting in a wet carpet. I understand that after what has happened now, and this is not the first time, because I could show you all the lines of stains on the carpet from each invasion of water we've had over the years, but I understand that you want to go in and get that carpet out of there and not have the risk of mold or mildew or illness, but I don't believe that any of that is a reason to say Historical Society, you have to get out and not come back. Now, I'm not sure whether you're asking us to do this because the library asked you to ask us, or whether the library is saying it, but I would like to have the chance to present this whole thing to the public before you say Historical Society, not only does your stuff have to go out while we clean the room, but you're not coming back. Because we could certainly modify with 2 inches of plastic to hold everything off the floor, And it could easily be put across the hall into the dry, new space that was built temporarily while the room was repaired and sanitized as needed. And it has been going on a long time, and each librarian or each group of people in charge has had a different interest in fixing it or not. And there have been repairs, but it still happens when we get a lot of rain in a short time with certain wind, and I'm aware of where it comes depending on the weather. So my big objection is that you're saying, and I can't tell what Brian's letter said, I read it over and over and I just couldn't be sure. First he said you have to be out by October 9th, and we're gonna help you the best we can. And then it said, no, now that there's mold, you have to be out in a week or two. And I'm hoping some way we can arrange to get out while you do what you have to do, and then we can go back, and if you want to have a discussion of why we're not welcome anymore with the library, that's a different topic.
Okay.
Can I say something?
All right, Brian wants to say something.
Okay, just to clarify, Glenn.
Sure.
The letter that I sent in the direction of the board, we did not know of the mold problem because, the mold problem or the drainage problem happened after that letter was sent. It was shortly thereafter. So that you had 90 days, you had 90 days in that letter at the direction of the board. But then when the situation happened with the wet carpet, we have to take immediate action. We still have to take that action. Somehow that room has to be emptied, the carpet pulled out and then cleaned. And the smell is getting, I was down there the other day, and it's getting very strong. So time is of the essence. So it is two separate issues.
And I think I understand fully the issue of get the stuff out as quickly as possible so we, the people responsible for the building, can go in and undo damage or risk that has happened.
Now,
But what's the rest of the part?
But to move the items out, whether it's down the hall to the other new room or out of the building, the highway department staff will be willing to, certainly able to help. I've talked with Kevin about that. We need to schedule that. But I don't think it would be great to move those cabinets with heavy objects in them when they're glass cabinets. So they're gonna have to be emptied and then moved and then redone. So that all has to be coordinated, but it's still.
I think we're not really at odds on this. It's just that I want to be sure I understand what you have in mind. And once the stuff goes out of the building, no matter how it's packed, it's going to be almost impossible to restore what we have now. And it's not just a room full of stuff. We have an office, we maintain membership lists, I do banking there. A lot of stuff goes on just like in your office probably does. We have volunteers who take care of archiving and all the donations and all the orders that come in for Swanton history books. And to suddenly say, you don't have this space anymore, we don't have an appropriate space to do all those things that we do. And when and if we have this public meeting, I hope we do, maybe I can be more organized in trying to explain why I think a permanent out from that room would cause the downfall eventually of what is now the Historical Society.
What's that?
I've been down in that room and cellar for many years. Not sick or anything from it. But maybe while we're looking for a senior community center, I don't know what that is, 1,000 feet over there, square feet maybe, probably less than that. I don't know either, but maybe we could add whatever the square footage is of that, add that to that building, have it above ground, have it with windows so people can see it, don't know it's there. Just drive by there, unless you and I, those of us who live here, nobody else knows it's down there in the cellar. There's no windows that you can look in and see. Or if you're at a street level, you could have windows, you could have a sign in the front. And people will go. If they don't know what's there, they won't go. So, anyway.
Well, We do have the public hearing for the town plan. I don't think I'm cutting anybody off, but we're not gonna solve this issue here tonight because we don't have all the players here. We got to get the library trustees here, okay? And then we can have this discussion and come to some kind of agreement. Because I don't think anybody on the board wants to, you're mad at us. Now we're gonna turn around and make the library trustees mad at us. We haven't accomplished a damn thing, all right? So maybe having everybody mad at us is the best way to do it. I don't know, but I'm just saying, we're not gonna solve this issue tonight. We gotta get the library trustees here. And then you guys wanna keep the space, that's fine. We'll start, you bring your needs to the table, let the trustees bring their needs to the table. The town's only concerned about that building being properly used and maintained. And right now, there are a lot of maintenance issues in that building. Okay, so forgive us for probably not doing it the right way, but we're trying to get the building straightened out too. But without the library trustees here, we can't really make a decision.
May I say one more thing on
Yes.
this?
And then I'll hit you.
In the emails this morning with Jason and I believe Rebecca was on that, and Abby, whatever is decided, I mean, we've got to get that stuff out, the sooner the better, out of the room. And if we can move it, but I had asked for a meeting possibly Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, just a suggestion, with you and the library, myself, maybe if Earl wanted to come, and Kevin, we can formulate a plan to do it. Okay, probably will be next week at this point. Because on Thursday, I'm digressing here. Yeah. On Thursday, the elevator, the sump pump in the elevator is hopefully going to get fixed or replaced, one way or the other. That is going to get taken care of. And so the elevator will be not in operation, plus the workmen will be all over the place down there, so that'll go on for a few hours. So, but we could meet. So if you just let me know tomorrow, we can go accordingly.
Nope.
I just want to say that I am a member of the Historical Society. My mother was in the Historical Society for many, many years with Ron. And she wanted me to say tonight, she couldn't be here tonight, that she would like to have a lot more, treat with a lot more dignity and a little more respect from what happened in the last meeting, and work together and move forward on it too. And yeah, problem solve it as well, on what we can do to work together as a community, because this is your history too. It's all our history here.
Well, we certainly didn't mean any
Yeah.
disrespect to the Historical Society.
Yes.
I know most of the people, and I appreciate everything they do, and it's a great thing for the community. There was a lot of miscommunication here, and a lot of things the board didn't know that we're finding out now. Okay, so I'm not happy either, by any sense of the stretch of the imagination. So we're gonna have everybody here at our meeting on the 1st.
Second.
And if the library trustees don't show up, then we'll make a decision for them.
Okay.
Joel?
You should rescind that decision of July 6th tonight. Otherwise, there will be a formal complaint coming to this office. And rescind that letter as well. And then do what you said you want to do, is have people get together and resolve it the way it should be.
So if we don't do what you want, you're gonna form,
There's a formal process for it, Steve.
so you're gonna bring the thing if we don't do what you say? I just wanna make sure I
What
understand.
I'm saying is a formal complaint
I
will
don't
be
like
made, a
threats.
violation of the open meeting law.
Yeah.
And there's a process to answer it, and if it doesn't get done properly, there's a process to appeal it. That is what I'm saying, yes. That's what needs to be done. What was done, in my opinion only, was illegal. And what I'm hearing from most board members is they feel pretty damn bad about it. There's a way to fix it, rescind it, and have your meeting you're talking about. Don't leave it on the table that that letter still stands to be out of there in 90 days. It's an insult to the Historical Society.
I'm willing to go that far for sure. I think it, you know, because I think we didn't have all the facts the other night about what really was going on. And I agree that we should rescind that, but you guys, somebody's gonna have to make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made to rescind this letter because I think it was misunderstood in a lot of ways, but, of July 6th, and that we're gonna have a meeting with the trustees of the library and the Historical Society next
August 2nd.
August 2nd. And we will come to some kind of decision there. Or maybe not, maybe we'll just come up with some ideas, but who knows, but for the time, but we still gotta get that floor straightened out. That has got to be done. Now, you're gonna try to schedule a meeting so you guys can decide and get a schedule, so at least we, you know, in the meantime, we get that done. Then we resolve the long-term issue. Okay?
Motion's on the table.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
All right, new town business, public finally. Public hearing on the 2023 Swanton Municipal Plan. And we have Corey here. He worked with the planning commission to put this plan together, and okay, all right, somebody's gonna have to make a motion to exit this select board meeting to open the public hearing.
I will make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion been made and seconded to enter into the planning, the Swanton Municipal Plan hearing. All in favor?
Thanks, guys. Aye.
Is this supposed to be
Okay.
functioning? Is this where it's
Well, we're
adjective to this?
Those are the
Or
words.
so, this comma doesn't even.
Yeah. There you go, Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Good word, there's more coming. All right.
All set?
Yep, we're all set.
Okay, just before we jump into all the pictures, I want to take an opportunity to thank the 4 other people that I've worked with the past 2 years. The past year, we've kept very busy. Oliver Manning, Heather Bruskowski, Andy LaRock, and Ross LaVoy. We've had an interesting, a year that we got some things done. Just last night, last Wednesday, we had a meeting and we got an issue that was in our planning and conversation across the table back and forth. And if this gentleman who was there goes to see his engineer and follows up on what we discussed, I think you people will be very pleased to hear about that in time. But I'm not going to say any more about it now. But things happen. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. But I want to thank all of those people for their time and effort this year. There was a lot of time and effort put into that. I want to thank Amy. She's really kept us going. She's kept, when we've gone off, when we've gone this way, and sometimes when we've gone straight line, right away, she says, hey, you guys did good tonight. So we've had a very good year, and I want to thank her. Special thanks to this gentleman up here, Corey Perry. Last year, when the group in St. Albans said, no, we can't do your works like we've done it over the years, Corey stepped up and somebody recommended it. I think it's one of the best things that happened to us. Our plan is unique to Swanton. If you look at the one for Enosburg, you look at the one for Highgate, you look at the one for Albert, they're all the same. You wonder, are they just taking it, copying it over and doing it? He came up with a plan where we did away with a lot of stuff. We put a lot of new stuff in there. And we gave some thought to it. And he really did a very nice job for us, so we're very happy. And we look forward to working with them now as we start into another year of things that we intend to visit and to review what's allowed in every zoning district in the town. So we're gonna have our hands full with that as well. And one of the things you'll enjoy about Corey's work is you all, I believe, have a copy of the new plan. Took me about 2.5 hours to read it all this afternoon. So you can plan on about 2.5 hours some afternoon. Just don't get into your rocker or you'll fall asleep doing it. But we're down to about 60 some odd pages in there. This is what we had 8 years ago. There's a lot of reading in this. This is not 2 hours worth of reading. So I want to thank Corey for really bringing this thing where it's in a manageable size, and it follows good, and we really appreciate your work with us. Corey, thank you.
Well, I'll take from here. Thanks, Ed. So I'll kind of start at the basics, and just so you guys all know, obviously I've been involved in the area politics for a while. I no longer do that, but I also teach local government at the University of Vermont, so it's kind of a fun to actually do it in action versus just teaching in a classroom. But I go back to what is a municipal plan. It's basically a document essential to defining and implementing a community's vision. The plan provides a framework towards obtaining community aspirations through public investments, land use regulations, other implementation programs. Basically, it's not necessarily something you guys are going to look at every meeting. Unfortunately, the reason I don't like the 400-page or 300-page plans, they sit on a shelf for 8 years until you dust it off to update it and write a whole new one. So we try to get it to a manageable level. Effectively, how towns use them most effectively is, they're using Act 250 applications when a big project comes in. Ultimately, grant funding. Things that you're going to want to seek funding for, that you're going to refer back to a town plan and say, see, when the town had a chance to come together and discuss issues, here are things we wanted to see over the next 20 or 30 or 40 years in our community. They're important to us. We don't necessarily give you the detail on how you get there. That's your job as select board members. But it just says, the goal, you'd support this, you'd support that. That being said, like anything in municipal government in Vermont, about 80% of it's required to be said by the state of Vermont. So you got a lot of guidance there and things you have to do. Again, what are municipal plans for? They're a long-term guide, a basis for decision-making, taxpayer investments, an action plan that identifies implementation steps, a basis for regulations. So when we are working on the bylaw update, some of the things we discussed in the town plan, we'll look to update the bylaws to come into alignment. A source of information. So we have some historical data in here. We look at homeowner prices, we look at population trends, we look at enrollment trends, various things of that nature. They're a source for strategic planning, a tool for coordination, like I said, Act 250, and then really a source to help gain access to state and federal grant dollars. So think about things as an 8-year plan, but a 20-year vision. In no plan are you going to have your 70 or 80 or 90 items that they kind of list out as goals and policies and get them all done. A lot of them is, what do we want to see 20 years, and how over the next 8 years can we move a little bit further in that direction, whether that's building, you guys have talked about a lot of things tonight, and things take 5, 10, 15, 20 years to get done in the municipal world, so that's not new. So the priorities of the Planning Commission when we started this project, besides just a pure update, which is statutorily required every 8 years. That's why Town of Swanton's doing it, and that was itself funded through grant funding. They wanted to really address and strengthen 3 topic areas: recreation, senior housing, and the Southern Growth District. Shorten and make the municipal plan more readable and user-friendly. Again, the other one, it was all, kind of all over the place. We reorganized it. While we cut a lot, there were things like the introduction to Swanton might have been 4 pages long, and we shortened it to 4 paragraphs. That's where the cutting, but most of the meat and potatoes are there. We ensure it's compliant with state and regional planning requirements. We've provided opportunity for community meetings. There have been 17 public meetings in which the plan was discussed. We've had a community survey. We've done outreach to other folks, including local Abnaki leaders, just to get input on various pieces of the plan. And then we've had the statutorily required meetings, which this is one of. We'll have, the way this process works is tonight, there's opportunity for a few more edits that have come in the last few days. If you guys approve to make those edits, we'll make them, and then 15 days before the meeting on the 22nd of August, we'll post that publicly again, or minimum, and then you finally adopt. But a town of this size requires 2 select board public meetings, 1 planning commission. So a lot of this is statutorily laid out, and that's kind of how we're handling this. The town, to not go into detail because it is still a 50-page document roughly, we reorganized the chapters into various topics. They didn't always, they kind of hopped around, but the topics discussed, it's 13 chapters. We have an introductory chapter, a chapter really about the people of Swanton. Then we get into land use, transportation, scenic and natural history, housing, facilities, utilities and services, energy, education, historic and cultural resources, recreation, which for the first time has its own chapter, which hasn't always happened. And then 12 is compatibility. So basically we just look at the surrounding towns that abut the town of Swanton and talk a little bit about them. That's required. And then implementation, for those of you who have it in front of you, the goal in the last 20 pages is actually to break the town plan into a spreadsheet that you guys can look at on a regular basis and say, are we addressing something? Are we, how are we handling some of these issues? And each one of these, there's nothing far-fetched that really puts you guys in a bad spot. We were pretty tame on things. There are things where we thought might have been controversial. In full disclosure, between the city and village relationship, we try to keep that as mundane as possible, so that way, there was no sides being taken on any one issue or one another. An example of that, was police coverage. The community survey, people talked about police coverage quite a bit in the town, but we didn't want to say in the town plan, the town of Swanton shall have more of this or more of that, because those are budgetary decisions left for you as a board. So we did, try to remain neutral on those. Understand there'll be longer term issues. Feedback from regional planning, we made all adjustments. They just sent a few maps they wanted included over that we'll add in, and then they just wanted us to add an appendix for the purpose of each zoning district, which a little frustrating because we're now going into that piece, so we'll put that in, but there's a good chance we're probably going to redo the zoning districts in the next phase. We have a new plan, so we'll add it in, and then it'll probably be back when we finish up our bylaws in a year to amend this part of it to have new districts. And an example, again, the Plan Commission hasn't gone there, but we talked with the new housing regulation in the state. A lot of it is based on whether you have water or sewer. So should we look at a residential district that's literally residential water sewer versus residential without it? So those are things that, preview the next year that could or might happen. We did get some feedback in the last day or so from the Village of Swanton, and really one of it was surrounded an adjustment. So the current language, when we address town and municipal village offices, says in 2004 through 2005, the town office building underwent extensive renovations. The piece that was concerned here is we don't really address the space issue at the municipal complex, the village complex, and they are planning some upgrades there. They'd like to see, they have some needs that they didn't feel were well articulated in the original language. So before you tonight is some new draft language which basically adds here, in the spring of 2023, the Village of Swanton purchased a property at 124 First Street to meet future space needs. The current Swanton Village Municipal Complex is nearly 50 years old. The facade was updated approximately 10 years ago, but updates are needed to meet the needs of Swanton residents and the region. In here, we talk about, we add the town fire department is located in the Swanton Village Municipal Complex, which is past its useful life and needs extensive upgrades to meet the needs for the next 50 years. And then probably with the most aggressive language is the Village of Police Department currently occupies a portion of the same property. The space within the municipal complex for the police department is not adequate and needs to be addressed in the coming years to meet the current and future demand on the department. And then we added a little place here that that the current level of police service shall be maintained as the community in the region continues to grow. Obviously, they'll look at whatever the future that depends on how the region grows, and Bill's here to talk about any more of that language. So this is the only thing we would need actionable tonight, is that you're okay with this being, at this point, being slid in place of the other stuff. You know, that's kind of the general overview. It is a 50-page document. I'm happy to answer any questions from the crowd and anyone else, but I didn't want to take you a line by line because, you know, we did that planning commission open hearing. But I will tell you this, your planning commission, we worked through, Brian will get this from our legislative days, but the line by line. We went through every single line of the plan and didn't leave it unturned to make sure that what stayed there was something they wanted, or when we removed anything they didn't want. And we spent that, so, you know, in lieu of spending 3 hours of you guys doing that tonight, I just kind of gave the quick overview, but happy to answer any questions you may have. And you have the full draft plan in front of you, and it's available at the clerk's office for at least another 30 days in this process. Yeah.
I just want to mention, as I was sitting here tonight, I couldn't help but think that this is a lie. It is a plan that works. I mean, if you asked me that 20 years ago, I would say, what are you talking about? But tonight, I heard Mr. Chairman a couple of times referring to the people with their homes, the roads. These are things that are in there about maintaining, helping people who are poor to maintain their homes, help people who have poor insulation to fix up their homes and to make life pleasant for everybody, I guess. So.
And the plan is set up, for those who read it, there's the goals, and then there's various policies to support that goal and how it could go. And it's really just kind of spelled out and almost bullet pointed to the point where you don't get lost in long paragraphs and not sure what it's saying at the end of it. There are sections where that's required, but, and then we do address, you know, for example, in chapter 11, recreation, just because I know it's come up, the first goal is to, so here's how it would read. Goal 11.1, because it's chapter 11, goal 1. Maintain and enhance existing recreation facilities and programs to meet current and future needs of the population. The first policy under that, support and instruct a community recreation center. That, you know, that's what we talked about. So like that's how that would read. Doesn't say when, doesn't say how, doesn't say where. It's just, as a town plan, we've heard the concern, generally support it as a policy. You know, another one in that, you know, example is, you know, promote the utilization of existing community recreational facilities for recreational uses, including the library and McQuam Beach. So, you know, what you can do to say, hey, we have a library, here's, you know, we've just renovated the library, who knows what happens, you know, again, communicate that. So they're broad, but, you know, they give you the point too, that if a grant comes along to help promote libraries, you can say, see, this is one of our policies we want to do in our goal. Or the rec center, if we can get grant funding. See, it says right in our plan that we want one of these, and people want one, and so please give us some money to do it. Any other questions? I will say, I think sometimes I get nervous when you come to these because they are so long. People assume a 40 or 50 page plan. You might have missed something, and invariably you always do, but I always kind of lean back on Steve Jobs that complicated is easy, simplicity is hard, and so trying to simplify these things as much as possible may not look like you didn't put your homework in, but simplifying it sometimes is a harder task than just ramble on for 180 pages.
How do you address growth?
Yeah, so we basically just growth is happening in the area. We do point out you know, a desire to grow the Southern Growth District and to do, you know, for example, we put in the plan, whether it helps the town or not, that I don't remember the exact wording, but basically in the V-Trans conversation that the town would be supportive of them building the water infrastructure to the right of way so that it can be accessed by other potential future developers who want to come into the area, not just the garage. It talked about the importance of, the state requires us to address growth also in the sense that it should be as dense as possible where there's current infrastructure and then alleviate the concerns on conserved land. We had a long conversation, nearly 50% of the land in Swanton is already conserved through either the reserve or agricultural land and that, so Swanton's already kind of done their part. I think the state's goal is by 2050 or 2060, some folks want to get to 50% conserved. There's communities like Swanton who are pretty much already there. And that creates its own issues on, conserved land where it's close to the development. But
And do you address anything like on, not to bring this back again, if we have more growth, what about the roads and even the sidewalks still? The ones that are existing already?
Yeah, so we do talk about sidewalks. We don't talk about it in the sense of growth, but we do talk about the importance of a walkable and bikeable community and those needs. So that's something the state requires as well. Similar, and another topic came up, we had to address flood resiliency. That's becoming an issue the state's requiring every municipal plan to address. So that's addressed in the plan as well.
What about businesses then too? Is that addressed on business friendly or this growth?
Yeah, so I think, it's vague in the sense that, we would support growth, that makes sense, that, the phraseology is kind of vague. But we know, I think, the town of Swanton would welcome a restaurant, they'd welcome certain industry, but they want to see the development either happen in the village or the growth center is where all that's kind of related. We do talk about that.
Focused a lot on mixed use development, especially in Southern Grove District.
Okay.
Yeah, housing. I mean, housing's a big. The housing number is astronomical. Just the jump from the last 10 years. And then there's other concerns that we've seen in enrollment decline at MBU, and so what does that mean from an education perspective? That be thoughtful of that because you build infrastructure, but you have less students now than you've ever had.
I would like to see Swanton be seen as a great place to live. As
it is
improving. It is, but that reputation out there.
And as a commentary, just where I work in the other municipalities I work with, from Milton, St. Albans Town, Swanton, that the growth's really going to happen on those 89 towns in northwestern Vermont, and those towns are going to be prepared. I mean. You've seen Fairfax grow almost double in size in the last 20 years. You've seen the town of Georgia just do something similar. St. Albans Town's grown from 5,000 to 7,000 people. The town of Swanton has had its own healthy growth in those years. Chapter 2, we pointed.
4.something%.
Yeah, we've seen, we've grown, 400 people in 10 years. It doesn't. But and we're expected to grow to 7,000. So, believe it or not, the city of St. Albans and Richford are the only two communities in Franklin County that lost population the last 10 years. If that trend continues, Swanton will be the second largest town in the county behind the town of St. Albans. You guys are already the largest voting bloc in the county. That's a little secret from my Senate days. Swanton and St. Albans Town are the actual people who show up to vote. Everyone was always like, St. Albans City, I go, they're fifth. You're like, you're fifth? And I go, yeah, behind Swanton, St. Albans Town, Georgia, and Fairfax. Then it was the city of people who showed up to vote. So you guys are already a big player in the region.
Thank you.
Well, we will have some other extra copies coming in shortly.
Okay.
You can pop in the office.
I don't necessarily need a motion for this part because you'll do the final adoption next one, but are you guys okay with us making this updated language that the village requested? Okay.
May I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Like you said, having it in the town plan leaves you open to grants. By adding the stuff about the police department, does that open them up to find grants for so it's less taxpayers involved?
It's funding streams. When they go to make the case to voters, they can say, hey, it's in our town plan, something we've discussed publicly before. This isn't a new topic. We've brought up. I think it opens doors to a number of things. Potentially.
When he says it opens funding streams, it's not necessarily guaranteeing there'll be grants. But when you find a grant, you can say, this isn't something we thought of last week, this is something we've been planning for 8 years, that, and you say, you know, because we do so many public meetings, this is a
Well, take for example, there's a program now called MERP, the Municipal Energy Resilience Program, I think, and most towns are trying to all go for it. There's about $45 million. You can get up to $500,000. Every town that I've talked to, it's probably been a dozen or so, they're all trying to find a project to try to apply for the money for, even if they don't need it. So if you can go back to your town plan and say, this is actually called out in the town plan, not some project we pulled out of our hat, theoretically you can move up the funding ladder and a competitive grant. Because I guarantee you, of that $45 million, I bet $1 billion is asked for across the state of Vermont. And
So is that something that would include the rec center then, in there
there's
as well?
potential, yep. You know, and you know, sidewalks and all that, if you say this is funding of sidewalk that we call out in a plan or a goal, yeah, no problem, that helps.
Just to clarify too on the sidewalk discussion, we didn't specifically say any sidewalk, you know, like the one discussed earlier. I would say a larger focus of ours in that discussion was on the Southern Growth District. And when we're encouraging new growth, that we would want to see, similar to St. Albans has done, if you notice there's a sidewalk in front of Handy's that doesn't go anywhere. It's that when a new business comes in, that when you're planning your layout, plan a sidewalk, and you know, one business starts it and the next business continues it and so forth, so that down the road everything is there, instead of, you know, all these businesses come in and then we try and go back and say, well, we want a sidewalk there, and then we're footing the bill for it.
Right.
Whereas we can kind of pass that along as new things start.
Sidewalks and curbings.
Yep.
And make a community look nice.
And flowers.
Questions, thoughts? Now's the time if you have edits or thoughts, it'd be good to get them in, just so that for the next meeting we can have anything made.
Is there any wording about preserving the character of Swanton as well? It's
Yeah, we got the historic nature, historic, you know, encouraging the character of the settlement patterns. You know, the best we can. I mean, there are constantly changing rules. This, you know, we'll deal with in the bylaws, but the state of Vermont did just pass a new housing piece that overrode local zoning in a lot of instances, and how dense you can allow and all that. So we'll have to come into compliance with that at some point. But you know, that's, you know, it is what it is.
Page 13, I just feel like it's a grammatical mistake here. Swanton Enhancement Project should be like up with the other ones, so if you read it, encourage and support various groups and organizations, including the Swanton Chamber of Commerce, Swanton Historical Society, Friends of the Library, Abenaki Self-Help Association, Tribal Council, Friends of Missisquoi, etc. Service clubs, churches, senior citizen organizations, and clubs to enhance Swanton as a culturally, recreationally Swanton Enhancement Project and Tourist Center.
Yeah, we can move that up. That is a grammatical error.
Policy isn't underlined on page 19 for the policy. And I'll have more, but I'll share them
You can shoot me an email.
afterwards.
Yeah. Always looking for those ones. I don't know if always good to have extra set of eyes on
I'm
things.
missing my calling and copy editing.
Yeah.
And if I could, I'd like to suggest an edit on page 40, under recreation. You have youth programs for softball, baseball, soccer, basketball, you've got skiing listed. I think it should be more feeder programs for Missisquoi Valley, or the school district, instead of skiing.
Is the rest of the board okay with that?
Plus, after skiing, is the word "and" needed in that?
Nope.
why would skiing be a part of that?
Well, we don't ski in Swanton, so we would outsource to a different community, and it can be, but I also think the importance of acknowledging the feeder programs and youth athletics for our educational system would allow us to pursue more funding in recreation to make sure that those programs are strongly supported.
Okay, I grew up at, they had the ski bus,
Right.
which was awesome.
COVID unfortunately has made that very challenging. The Rotary
Yeah.
bus is now no longer working, and it's been very difficult for us to get kids to the mountain because the cost of transportation is so large. But this
Okay.
here would allow us to look for funding for that at the rec level.
Okay.
If you're gonna have a football team, you need to start training them young. That's where these
I
programs.
just saw the Ducks thing, that's nice.
Support that, build up the football teams.
Would that exclude cross-country skiing then too, and things like that?
No.
The winter stuff? Okay.
I like the concept Nicole's saying feeder programs, because in this, traditionally we've listed them, but if you can be a little more vague, because, when I was, I'm almost 20 years out of high school now, but we didn't have snowboarding wasn't a sport when I went, but now snowboarding's a sport.
Right.
So you don't know if you got the snowboarding team or if they have a volleyball team at BFA.
Ice skating rink or ice skating.
Yeah, so the feeder program at least makes it broad enough, to your point.
Yeah.
If the school wants to add something and the community wants to add it.
I just think the feeder program in general, I mean, it can encompass youth athletics, but it encompass, say the kids want to have a chess club, or say the kids decide that they want to have some other sort of.
There's actually a fishing team now.
There is.
Different schools.
Bass fishing.
And in the fall, the state fishing game select, wherever it's gonna be held, they furnish, bring the boats in and people to be with the youngsters, and you can come home and win your letter as catching so many perch, I don't know what.
It's bass, but since I think we actually do have that expanding within our school district. So again, it would be a really great way to help increase those
I
programs.
think they started a volleyball team here this year.
Yep.
There's something else.
Last year.
Some kids that don't wanna play basketball. There's a lot of things going on.
We would call it, most people don't realize, but Swanton has a golf course, even though it's a private course.
Yep.
There is
We
a
have a golf
recreational
team.
opportunity in the area. It's really, heavily focused on trying to leverage the Moyle Valley Rail Trail.
Well, I think that's important. I just think there's more to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, Rob.
And can I also mention, I really appreciate the way you set up the goals in the back. Heavily, it says select board. Should there be any, as this is not, it is the town and the village municipal plan, should it be reflected that some of those lead projects should also be taken on by the trustees and not just the select board?
I think
Spitz says that, something to
so.
that
So we
effect.
have it. I mean, at the end of the day, because of the way you guys are set up, we threw select board in where if we didn't know a place to go, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you guys. So the fact you could delegate that around, but we could certainly make any adjustments. I think that's a longer meeting to go through each one and say, and probably with the village and say, here, there. We could also probably make this piece an appendix, so it's not, we could allude to it and then you guys could adjust it in some kind of, I know you guys have joint meetings from time to time and look at it and say, you know what, maybe, because the way I look at it is, you should look at all of them once a year and say, what do we really want to try to tackle in the next couple of years? Who's the appropriate place to deal with that? Can you go up and figure out how to address X, Y, and Z?
I'm not sure where it is in here, but it seems to me like I read something about that today.
It's the table in the back, and those are valid concerns. It's just ones that made sense to be planning commission or like bylaw update. We threw to the planning commission. But the way the municipal structure is.
Maybe it says select board / trustees on all of them instead of just one or the other. The community has a hard enough time realizing the different entities. When you look at a map, it's all just one Swanton. But I think if we, especially moving forward, it helps us move all together instead of saying, well, no, in the plan it says the select board, but in actuality, there are two different municipalities being represented in one plan.
Yeah, and there's certain responsibility that the village has that are solely theirs, and the same thing with the town, the way it's set up now.
But at the end of the day, according to the state of Vermont, the select board still like, the trustees don't have a statutory say in this. Just because it's within the municipality, it's the select board. So again, that's why we went there, because the buck kind of stops it. It's not a city, St. Albans town where they're two separate chartered municipalities. Village is it's kind of an overlay if you want to look over in the town, within the town.
I already had mentioned to Corey before the meeting started on that.
Trying to be, I understand the politics of that and trying to walk that grease.
We had this discussion throughout the day on various proposals. And if I were in the legislature, but I will contact one of the representatives, they need to address that in legislation. That if there's, we got one village. You go to the town of Hartford, Vermont, has 5 villages. And how do they, the villages have got to be considered in the municipal plan as part, as a player. So I'll be sending them to our legislature.
But I think this could be an opportunity for us to show that we want to move forward and include our village in all of these things. Let's all look at it at the state level.
I think Corey could write a paragraph that speaks to that. Statutorily, it's the town of Swanton responsible for the plan. However, we encourage, the select board encourages max participation with the village and joint, whatever, but just some paragraph to acknowledge that. One, we know what the statute is, but B, we're working together as a team and,
Yeah, so I agree with that, Joe. That should be in there. That language should be in there in the beginning, in the introduction, that, it refers to the select board, but we work jointly with the trustees work with us on issues, so.
One more reason to merge the town and the village.
We got enough problems right now,
Bring it on.
We strategically avoided that subject from town plan. We did.
We tried to be, so if we're vague or not, or mute on that issue, is we were trying to avoid the.
But if you can get a paragraph in there that notes that, we have this working relationship, even though that.
Yeah, I'll probably add it to 1.2 where it says town planning authority and adoption process. I'll probably add a paragraph at the end of it. While we follow the paragraphs above, statutorily, we want to recognize the close interworking
town
relationship.
encourages strong participation in the village and joint.
Yeah, and I think it fit in there, and then because the whole first chapter, you have a vision statement. If the next 4 paragraphs are town authority, basically referencing the state statute that gives you the authority to do this.
Yeah.
And then it's then how the goals are, the preparation, the history of the various iterations of the plan you've had, and then some definitions. But yeah, I can add that in certainly.
It is highlighted in page 1, but I feel like it needs to be more out in your face.
Yeah.
Let's all work together.
Once we approve this plan, does the Regional Planning Commission have to approve it too?
They do, but we sent it to them ahead of time and got their feedback, and we've made all the edits they asked for that were required. There were some things they asked for that our planning commission didn't agree with. And you're not the only ones, there's other municipalities in the area that disagree with regional planning on things, and so we did what we were required to do, and some of the stuff that was suggested that we may not have agreed with, we
didn't have to.
That we didn't have to.
Anybody got any questions for Corey or the other planning commission members?
When did you say it might be available?
Amy can email you a copy anytime.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll work on it. I gotta get the maps in, and it's not language. It'll be going back through to make sure I got the right pages on everything. Statutorily, 15 days before the next meeting, so no later than August 7th.
Okay.
Oh, that brings up something interesting here now. With this new website, you didn't put this on the website?
I sent to you. We can certainly make sure it's on the website.
It'll go eventually.
Can't you just transfer it from your computer over?
Yeah, we can send it over to them. But yeah, certainly.
And put a notice on the front page that anybody who wants to see the draft plan. What's that?
I had somebody call today looking for it on the website. It wasn't there.
Where do you want it on the website?
Right where the existing plan is.
A good place?
Under zoning and plan.
Yeah, but you'd wanna put a special notice on the front page that, you know, the draft plan available. Click here. For people like me.
But all the other statutory steps follow. So the statutory, just so you people know, the rules, we had to warn this meeting 30 days ago. This was sent to all the towns that abut Swanton's Planning Commission chair, and their clerks, and then it's been posted in the clerk's office since then. There's kind of a process where these all have to be. Fortunately, there's a couple things we could talk, Brian and I are back in legislature. One that irks me is the newspaper thing now. Now the messenger's not daily. It's really sometimes tough to catch your warnings, because if you don't have it by noon by Thursday, you're really you're up the creek for the next week.
Yeah, we've had that problem too as well. Amy's had that
Prime
problem.
example.
Yeah.
But they still say you gotta put it in the paper yet.
Yeah.
No one reads the paper anymore.
Siobhan, did you have a question?
Just 3 things. I will send you an email. I'll get it afterwards as far as those little tiny corrections. 2, you can add to your notice that you had where you mentioned how many times it was talked about. I recorded for Northwest Access one of those planning commission meetings, so you can add that to what you also did to share the information. Also, I want to thank the planning commission again for all the work that they've done and put into this. I know this has been going on for a while and takes a lot of back and forth and learning and all that stuff. So thank you again.
Good job. Good job.
And thank you, Clark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Alright, any other comment, Ed?
Oh, good night.
Oh, good night.
I'm getting old.
Thank you, John, well done.
You wait till you catch my age, you'll say the same thing.
Well, I think it starts earlier than that, Ed.
Probably.
I don't think I have to wait that long. There you go.
Jeez, and I better walk you to your car.
Alright, Bill, we'll see you tomorrow.
Pizza's on us tomorrow.
No, if they have that next one. I'll have the resolution for the next one, but I'll make all the changes.
Okay, the next issue under the, thank you.
Do you need to close the hearing? Do you need to make a motion to?
No, we're not.
Close public hearing.
Oh, okay, alright.
I'd like a motion to close the public hearing for the municipal plan.
Alright, motion been made to close the hearing and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so we're back into our regular select board meeting, and the next issue is the information for V-Trans related to Route 78 reconstruction project. Now to do it right away, right?
Right. We received a packet of right away. What this is they need the joint property owners of the Route 78 from the village line all the way to the Missisquoi Bay Bridge, actually, this side of the Missisquoi Bay Bridge, because when they built the bridge, the approaches to the bridge are,
they
are already set. So anyways, wherever our roads intersect, basically, so they're looking for us to sign off on the Church Road, Tater Road, Campbell Bay Road, Johnrigan Drive, Babby Boulevard, Brooklyn Street. This one, they've got Gallup Court, but that part of Gallup Court is in the village, so I will be telling them that. And then the Riverside Cemetery. In exchange for signing off on these permanent easements, they've offered $1,100. And it's up to the board whether you want to accept that or not. And I guess since they stuck my name on some of this stuff, they'd have to authorize me to sign.
My question is, what's the advantage and disadvantage?
Well, I mean, they're not fixing the road right to start with. I don't know how big of a fight we can put up over that without a lot of support from the region. But otherwise, I mean, they're gonna do it anyway. I mean, all they're doing is taking part of the end of the road.
Just, yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal one way or
How long is
another.
it gonna do? Somebody told me that's gonna be a 3-year project.
Well,
I mean, just the construction part.
just the construction,
Let
and
alone
they,
the acquisition.
at this time, they're expecting it to get completed by 2027. So, 3 years construction a year to do this work.
I'd rather move it off the hog.
So it's,
Yeah, but from Swan's perspective, that road, and now with the new rail trail, I mean, there's no really good way to get to the refuge.
No, you're right.
I mean, it'd be such a benefit, not just for Swan, but for the state of Vermont. I mean, if we could utilize that route. Now that you're going all the way over to freaking New Hampshire on the river, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that
This thing is long overdue. It's been needed.
yeah, but it's not gonna, it doesn't, what they're proposing doesn't, address how important that road is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they should be doing more.
they should.
And if it was in Chittenden County, they would.
It would take them 30 years.
But, I get, we need to make a motion for you to sign the,
To accept the offer and
To
have him
accept
sign.
the offer and sign, but that offer is probably gonna change when I tell them Gallup Court is in the village.
Around $50.
Yeah.
well, tell them we expect more.
No. I think we take their offer and let them continue to move on with fixing 78, is my opinion.
I'd support your motion, Mr. Chair. No, that we just
Go.
accept their offer and move forward.
Okay, you're talking
I wouldn't
about,
say nothing about Gallup Court.
No.
Just let it go.
I'd let that go.
yeah, let them straighten out their own
They'll
problems.
find it when
That's
years
what-
later, when
that's
they
what I'm
do the
saying.
titles.
Okay, somebody wanna make the
I'll
motion?
move.
I'll second.
All right, motion been made and seconded to, sign the, right-of-way with V-Trans for the Route 78 construction, reconstruction project.
Give Brian authority to sign.
Yeah,
and
give
accept
Brian
the offer.
authority to sign. There's no more discussion, I guess, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the motion carried. Next one is, the announcement that our senior lister, James Pratt, is retiring.
Yeah, that's, we got a copy of the letter, his official letter of retirement. It'll be effective September 1st, as he put out, and he'll be available after that date to train his replacement, as well as being on call as needed. I am writing a job posting, which is, well, the job description it would go into about 5 pages, because it's the job description of a lister by the state of Vermont.
Gotcha.
And so I just kind of highlighted it through what the responsibilities are, but but I'm working on that, and now this position, Jim's term expires 2025, I believe. So when you appoint somebody to this position, it will be until next town meeting. And then they will have to run for the unexpired term. If they so choose, I would hope they would choose to do that. And that's spelled out in the job posting, getting that sent out. But I will, in the next day or two, I thought I would have it ready for tonight, but it didn't work out. I'll send you what that job posting will look like. And as trying to cut it down, it's still lengthy. There's a lot to that job.
Yeah, and, I know Jim's not, go ahead.
Just a random question, because it came to mind. There's been a lot of movements in town of Vermont to get away from elected listers. Do you think that's something that might be a good thing for Swanton, or I could see how bringing in someone from the outside, you expand your applicant pool as part of this?
Well, I don't know, I mean, I understand a lot of towns have done that because it is getting to be a tremendous amount of work and because of what the state requires and all the various programs, right? So,
But the listers play a very daily, hourly role here. They're on the phone with everybody all the time, every day. They cover a lot of information for realtors, attorneys. They do a lot of they have a lot of information that if we got away from listers and just had an assessor here randomly once in a while, I don't feel that we'd be servicing our community not having our listers. At some point, the assessing may go through the state, but that's way down the road, but the listers do a lot of work and they play an important role here.
I was curious.
Yeah, I think the listers that we've had here in Swanton over the years have done a pretty good job. They haven't created a lot of conflicts. That's what happens in other towns is, you know, they come up with a lot of issues, so that they say, okay, we're gonna go, you know, with this. But I think it's important that we have people here from Swanton to deal with the people of Swanton, you know. And there's been a few listers that probably shouldn't have been listers, but they didn't last very long.
Mr. Chair. I think out of respect for Jim's request, we could accept his resignation, but I'd like to see us follow this up with a resolution, thanking him for his time, and maybe we could take a look at that and act on it at the next meeting, so it becomes part of our notes and thing. He's done a real.
Yes, he has. Jim has put a lot of time.
Even tempered, you know, and it would be memorialized in our minutes and stuff.
Not gonna be easy to replace.
No.
He has a great amount of knowledge
Yeah.
and views, and you know, some of this stuff gets pretty complicated. And, but anyways, we'll work on that.
Yeah, the next meeting of the meeting, but somewhere.
So, all right, Steve, I'll put you in charge of making sure that gets done for the next meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, maybe if we're gonna invite Jim, then maybe
Well, I think that first, however you want to do it, I think we have to come up with a draft of a resolution that we would approve. You guys can edit it or mark it up, and then we can finalize it. As long as it gets put in the minutes somewhere. And if he wants to come to the meeting, fine, whatever.
all right, so it'll be something in an email probably before the next meeting specific to this, and then we can get our comments in, so when we get to the meeting, we're ready.
Yeah,
So we don't have to drag it on to another meeting.
Yep.
All right, okay, community and economic development,
Quickly, a couple of things. I'll be very brief. The managers and town administrators met at the new St. Albans town offices last week. And that's quite the
Taj Mahal?
Yeah. They got plenty of room for expansion, I'll say that. But it's very nice.
that was the water.
I drank it, so and I'm still here, so no, they got that issue resolved. There was a presentation on housing, and you know, and the various things. And one thing was that Lake Champlain Housing, which runs the apartment house here next door. They are Section 8, but they take in senior citizens as well as other individuals who would qualify for Section 8. I personally have a little problem with that to some degree. However, I found out that Cathedral Square Housing, which is another housing company out of Burlington, are strictly senior citizens. So I probably will be contacting Cathedral Square and just see if they were looking at any sites around here and what we might be able to accommodate. There is a serious need, not that I really ever want to push anybody because of their age out of their home, but if those who would like to put it up for sale and they have no place to go, but if there was some places that frees up some other homes for other individuals. The other thing that I attended was a virtual meeting on the situation involving the southbound off-ramp of exit 21 up here. Somehow that's gotten to the state priority list. It's going to be put on to see about doing some improvements. They're not sure what yet, but improvements to that exit and that interchange. And there was mentioned earlier this evening, there was, I'm not sure the extent of the injuries, but there was a 4-car crash there this weekend. And the situation at that ramp is not good. So that's...
We're talking about a traffic light, right?
Well, the state had thinking about traffic lights, but they said, well, if we could do it with some good marking and lines, and I was like, no, that's not going to be the... And so I think traffic, and they're going to do a study and then come up with the idea whether to do the traffic light study. If we were in Chittenden County, there'd be traffic lights. No question.
And lights.
And lights, yeah. So that's what we've got going on community and economic development.
Sandy?
All right, now there's,
Sandy's got.
oops, Sandy.
Do we no longer have somebody for the town heading up economic development since Elizabeth left?
Brian has extra staff in his office, he's doing the things that Elizabeth used to do, everything that was going on before has been carried on. That was part of the thing, we wanted somebody here full-time. And that's why we created the position that Christina's in, so that the town, well, I'm gonna say manager, but it's not, town administrator, has more time to do these things. And
Swan Enhancement does have a task force on economic development, community economic development. I think Darcy at These on Broadway is chair of that group.
well, I think Brian, maybe you could be contacting them and see what kind of thoughts they have too, because, you know, we're trying to coordinate with the village too.
Right.
And Bill.
And that was what I was thinking about too, when we're looking into housing with the elderly, you know, because I think about too is we need more resources locally to, you know, help out with, whether it's doctors' offices or transportation, good sidewalks, good way to get around town without necessarily being able to drive. Those kind of things are really important. And I thought about that with economic too, having that access to these places.
Okay, now we had elementary school administration, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just, as we move forward with our planning for the rec center, and every time I go by the school and it's empty, it makes me question that these are very underutilized assets, and it's the same in every community. The schools aren't used after 3:30 in the afternoon unless it's a function going on or whatever.
That is untrue.
Okay, well, let me finish and then you can butt in if you want. The weekends, I don't think they're utilized much. My point is, perhaps we should be talking with the administration of the schools to see if we can incorporate the use of the gymnasiums or basketball courts going forward as we look at adding a basketball court to our rec center. Maybe we don't have to if we can utilize those facilities or something like that. I just think of the cost that's owned by the taxpayers. We pay for the operating expenses, and if there's a squeak in there where we could utilize that as part of the rec center, why not at least get it on the table with them? It's just not too late, it's not too early, but let's just talk to them.
Well, I appreciate you being very, very thorough. You know, these conversations seem to continually come up when the rec department can't be here to have those discussions with you. So, as I did last time, you know, I would remove myself from the select board to talk on behalf of the rec department. We do work with the schools to utilize the basketball courts.
Well, I'm not trying to do this outside of the rec department. I'm just saying, should we be talking, of course it would involve the rec department.
But you're having the conversation here now, and they can't be here to you know, they can't come to every meeting because, again, it's a board position and volunteer almost because the stipends are very small. But, you know, this is something that they've brought up continually. The rec department does work with the schools. The gymnasium space isn't always available. There are after-school programs that go on in that school until 5 o'clock every single day. And then you have the cleaning and the sanitation and everything else. So sometimes those spaces aren't available until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and when we're trying to get young people to utilize those spaces, 6 or 7 o'clock at night isn't always ideal for them. And then you have the large amount of senior folks that are now affected by the library being closed on the basement, that can't have their programming there where we've been using it. They can't get into the schools during school hours because the school hours are being used by the children. You know, so there's so many different levels to why gymnasium space is important to the rec center, and I'll leave that for the rec department to talk about. But those conversations are being had with the elementary school and with John Lumsden, who's the AD at the high school. You know, we've tried to scurry around all week to figure out where we're gonna put our programs that we've been doing in the library, to ask these different entities that you say are being underutilized. They don't have the capacity to support those programs, you know, because they have their own commitments to the community as is right now. So, you know, while I appreciate you bringing up talking to the elementary school admin, I think that's something that needs to be warned, so the rec department has the opportunity to come in and speak on the topic themselves.
Of course, why wouldn't they want to be in there, Nicole? I said we would ask Brian to begin arranging meetings and invite the rec department, invite Santa Claus. I don't care, I'm just putting it on the table.
I understand, so, but you bring it up in any other necessary business, well, the rest of the rec department can't be here to talk about it. You know, maybe we just say that, you know, can we add this to the next agenda item, so that way it's warned enough so that the rec department can come in and talk about those things.
That's fine, that's
Okay,
fine.
that's all I'm
But
asking.
once again, we seem to always get into some contentiousness when we try to bring up an idea. So if you want to bring it up at the agenda next time, fine. But I'm not going to stop bringing up things.
But, no, please do, I think it's
You're
important to
probably
be
gonna
thorough.
see a
I
lot.
wanna say something before. I think maybe we should just see how the school feels about it so everybody knows.
Sure.
I don't think they have, maybe,
Can I
maybe they got
speak
some
about-
time, but not enough. Okay,
Can
go
I
ahead.
speak about that?
Yeah.
I've had 2 children that went through basketball, soccer, what sport they play? Basketball, soccer, baseball, and gym time for those kids when my kids were in school were impossible. They couldn't get gym time in the times that were there. I mean, I had kids, they were going to practice 9 o'clock at night, dropping them off at 8:30, picking them up at 10 o'clock because there was no time early, because the little kids, I mean, they have 3rd and 4th graders and 5th and 6th graders who do those sports. They do them inside. They have their own after-school activities. That gym problem in this community has been a trouble since my kid's been in school. And my youngest son is 30 years old now, so it's been going on since then. They have no place to go to practice. They practice in the parking lot because they didn't have gym time. So it's not to say that we can get in there. They might get like 1 hour, maybe extra week or something, but that gym time for our community and these kids has been ongoing for years. We do, I mean, I'm a taxpayer and I know it's gonna cost money, but a need for another gym is needed in this community. We have too many programs and so many kids in those programs, and we can't fit them into gyms. We have the gym at the high school that's full all the time, the other gym at the other school's full all the time. And the elementary school, if you really can't call that a gym. It's not big enough, it's not qualified as a basketball court for the kids to play on. You can go in, you can practice there, but it doesn't give them the room to play full court. So they're not learning full court basketball, and it's hard. I mean, I'm going on, I know I am, but I know when my kids were little and playing sports, they had no place to go. And when you stick your kid in a parking lot to practice basketball, baseball, or get ready for fall sports or spring sports, because you can't go outside because it's too cold, and then you can't go inside, but then you end up going outside in the snow and playing in the rain and practicing. So it's like, it is needed.
I think you made your point, Kyle.
Sorry.
You made your point.
But
My point is, we keep hearing reasons why it won't work. Let's see if we can figure out a way to make it work, okay? That's all I'm.
Well, I know, and I know it's good. I don't want to say it's not there, because there may be sometimes you can get.
It's a new idea, it doesn't
Just
fly around.
experience, well, it's not really a new idea. They rotate those gyms all the time.
No.
High school kids come down here, the little kids go up there,
Okay.
depending on what's going
Yeah,
on.
the
So
way
they
it
have
is.
been working together.
The way it is now, you can't get in and do what you wanna do.
There's not enough time for, we take the time that is available to us.
Let me put this question another way. Now, I am gonna get to you. Does the school Are they like, we don't really want you here, or just say, hey, look,
No,
we have this time available, you can use it then?
They've said, yes, we have this time available, that's when you can host your programming. So they do make a spot for us. But the time, it's still not adequate to meet the needs of all of the community.
Okay.
You know, and it's only to serve the population of the school community, which still doesn't allow us to provide opportunities for the adults, our seniors, our pre-K toddler groups that don't have access to that school from 7 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. in the afternoon when it's being utilized for educational purposes.
Okay. My point is, if we're gonna get a gym, then we'll have a gym. But if a taxpayer says, well, have you talked to the schools? I'd like to be able to say, yeah, we have, and it just isn't gonna fit. Okay?
So we have, you haven't. So the conversation has been had multiple times with the rec department, and as Kathy pointed out, for years, that it has been an issue. So the conversation has been had. What kind of reporting do you need to be sufficient to know that we're repeating so many of these processes that have already been done? You know, so what more, or how can we report those things to you? Because I want you to be thorough, I want you to ask every question, but a lot of these things have been talked about to death. And we're continuing to prolong progression because we're readdressing issues that have been talked about with previous boards, with the rec board, with previous school boards, you know, within the community for years now. You know, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to take all the feedback that I've heard from the community in the 4 years or 3.5 years that I've been on this board and the 8 years that I've lived in this community, and we're not making progress. We're going around in circles because there's the what if, or it was talked about and it wasn't corresponded to you in a manner that satisfies whatever it is that you're looking for to move on to that next informed decision. You know, as we've talked about already today, I do my thorough research and I try to report to my board the best that I can so they can report to you. So is there a solution to make it to where I'm doing it more efficiently or they're doing it more efficiently to satisfy, you know, the need for us to continue to go around and around and around and around in the circle?
Fine.
So there is no solution? I'm asking you, what better way can we?
Well, we don't wanna get into personal discussion, maybe you and Steve could have this outside afterwards.
Sure.
No, I'm not gonna do that. It's
Well, I mean,
I
the
think you
issue
should-
here, I think, though, Steve, is a lot of what both of you are saying is true, but I think we have the answers. We know we need the space. That, there's no question about that. I mean, it's just where and how and when, and you know, how quickly we can get it done, and if it's affordable, how much we can do. Those are the answers we need to come up with, and we will have a lot of those answers in another couple of months. At least as far as what was affordable, and then we can start getting very serious about pushing it forward. But the space issue, I'm not gonna debate that. I think it's there. You know. So, let's move on to the next issue. Right away. What was that now?
Any other necessary business?
Yeah, it's under any other necessary business.
Vermont Precision Tools, purchased
Oh, yeah.
the 3 lots of land, the one that their building sits on, the adjacent one, and another adjacent one, they purchased it from the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation. About 2.5 weeks ago, Joe Cahill came into my office and he said they did that. And the third lot that was purchased is actually what Precision Lane sits on. That is the road that is a town-owned road. We take care of it, we maintain it. But for some reason, they uncovered this in the transaction. It was never deeded, nor was there ever an easement to the town of Swanton for Precision Lane. So they've gone ahead, they're starting the paperwork to deed it over to us. And when we get the stuff, we'll let you know. But just letting you know that was an oversight, and that's what's happening.
Alright, there was one other one on here.
Media summary.
Media summary, yeah.
So that was me, you know, I think this, we started the conversation about doing it for the Courier, but I think that we need to be a little bit more proactive on how we as a board share information with the community, you know, going back to the rec project there, or the community center project, there's still so much confusion or hearsay or whatever the fact that it may be, that our community is having a really hard time digesting it. I have received so many phone calls, so many emails. I've had people come into my office, you know, because they just don't understand what steps we're taking. And I think when we discussed about doing the summary for the Courier, I think it was a great attempt at trying to share that information with our community in a more digestible way, because not every person has the time or the ability to pick up our minutes and to read and understand our minutes. If we were able to somehow put that media summary out there on all of our social media channels and our website, you know, I think it would help those people that really want to digest our minutes, lead into our minutes, but it will help the larger population of the community have a better understanding of where we are in our process, the projects that we're working on. And I think, you know, Christina did a fabulous job, and I would really love to see that continue, and I would love to see that continue on to our social media channels where it is, you know, I know everyone says that the discussion boards on social media aren't, you know, relevant, or everyone has their own opinion on them, but I think there's so many people that are confused and they're using that as an avenue to have the discussions with each other. So the more information that we can share out, I think it's really, really important, and I think we need to do a better job at that. So I'm hoping that a media summary can help promote that information better.
Well, Nicole, we agree on this for sure. Now, what social, whatever you call them things, are you gonna put it on? Which one, does the town put anything on anything other than our website?
Well, we have the official Facebook page.
We have an official, is that what you were thinking, or are you thinking
Facebook,
of?
but I also think Front Page Forum could be a fabulous tool to reach members of the public, which would also help us gain traction on our website. You know, we give a short blurb, you wanna learn more, go visit our website. You know, and that's opening them up to learn about more of local government. You know, one of the things that's outlined in our town plan is it's moving forward, how do we get other people excited and engaged to be part of this process? They don't wanna come here, they don't wanna listen to us argue, they don't want, you know, poor demeanor to the public. They want us to have information, they want it there, they want to be able to read it, and then they want to be able to digest it and make their own opinions. So I think Front Page Forum, I think, you know, if the Courier is not responding, I think there's other ways to go about it, and then that, again, that can lead them back to our website where all of the information is there.
So you're suggesting our Facebook page, and, or Facebook, whatever you call it.
So, here's an idea. Do we create a spot on the website where there's a media summary? And then typically when I put the stuff on the Facebook, I share it from the website. So when they click it on a Facebook, it takes them to the website.
I think it needs to be more than a click. I think we need information there to entice people to click.
Okay.
I know if I'm scrolling through and I see a link, I'm not necessarily gonna hit that link, but if I scroll through and say, oh, a sidewalk project, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna read it.
So it looks more like an event, like the events look on that page.
I think it could be just a simple, you know, the flyer that you handed out last time with 3 bullet points.
Yeah.
I think it could just be 3 bullet points, you wanna learn more, the link to our website.
And all of that could, I mean, could you paste that? I could probably paste that whole thing on the website, on Facebook, where they could read it.
Absolutely.
And then put the website at the bottom. I can do that.
But I think it needs to come from somebody official in the town. I think it needs to not come from community members that are digesting the information and sharing their own information. I think it needs to come out before the reporters have the opportunity to share the information widely. And I think it's a way for us to get out ahead of everybody and say, okay, we've talked about this tonight. you know, we're gonna have a media summary out by Thursday, because we know the newspaper's coming out on Thursday, so we've shared that information, so when they go to fact check whatever's in the newspaper, they have something to fact check on.
Good idea.
So you're talking Facebook and community forum.
Front page forum?
How do I do that? I don't know what front page
Okay,
forum
I'll
is.
show you.
Okay.
I can,
Okay.
We're gonna have to, probably reestablish an account for it, but it's fairly simple.
So I can post it on Bill if that's easy.
it should really be no more than 10 to 15 minutes to share. I mean, summarizing might be more than 5 to 10 minutes,
And
but
that's fine.
I think it will help create a transparency. I think it will help our community become more educated, and the overall long-term goals, I think it's gonna help more people wanna become engaged with the process.
Yeah, any way we can get more people involved, the better. Could you have your hand up, Sandy?
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. And used to be, you know, we had reporters that covered Swanton and they came. We don't have that anymore, but this Josh Ellenbrock had a terrific article in Tonight about this meeting.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm probably the only person in the room that reads newspapers, but for local news,
I do, and I even told that reporter, call anytime. He's never called me though.
Oh, he calls me all the time.
Oh, he does?
well, he has good information, so thank you.
No, must be you don't like me. Okay, so that, we'll keep practicing on that, you know, we'll eventually get better at what we're putting out, but I agree we should do it. There's no question about that, you know, and there's some other
We could
things.
get it to the point where it's posted the next morning by noon.
I think that would be so.
Because that recap doesn't take as long as the minutes. I mean, granted, the minutes will be done tomorrow, but
I think it's so
easier to do first.
so substantial, because then, oh, they've got a question, they see we talked about this, that bullet point is out
The
there,
minutes will
then
be
they
there.
can go look for the minutes, or then they'll have the opportunity to call Brian or Earl or myself, and we'll know that those 3 bullet points were why they were calling, and then we'll be able to also, you know, reflect on how much data we're getting from who's calling about what, or, you know, is this effective?
Okay, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the importance of doing that from the town perspective is really important. I personally was upset with the July 6th messenger, because like with that caption of, you know, Swanton Rec looking for land, like it doesn't tell the whole story, and it only gives a blip of it, and it got people going, oh, they're looking for land, well, what about the 4th Street, and what about this, and it just brought a whole lot of negative comments back into it, because a lot of people didn't understand the full process of everything that's taken place, and it makes it seem like the rec commission just went ahead and they're doing this, and you guys went ahead and you're doing this, rather than the actual timeline of events that set it. So if you guys could do something media-wise that puts something out on social media, especially before Messenger does theirs, that would be wonderful.
All right, we'll make, we'll keep working on it. I mean, we've started the process, we just gotta keep it going, and
yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
as for the courier, I
Right.
sent it to them twice and called 2 different times and
Yeah.
called, and they don't respond.
yeah, so I guess we'll
And the
hit this.
messenger's really expensive to post it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we need to utilize these free avenues that seems to be where a lot of our community is having these discussions and sharing their information, you know. There's 5 or 6 different community pages, and they've been exploding over the weekend, and just reading some of these things, because members of the community feel like that we're not receptive or reading those. I don't personally think that I should be addressing any of those issues, but I think that, you know, if the town were to put out nope, it's A, B, and C, then a lot of the miscommunication, or the, you know, the opportunity for the community to educate themselves on these issues is a lot more attainable or friendly, or I think it will help drastically.
Okay, so we're gonna continue that, that's not gonna be an issue there.
We're gonna improve it.
Yeah. All right, public comments. Okay,
Just a random thing.
okay.
It's something I want, it's something that I emailed Brian about. I meant to get on I meant to do the petition for trustee of public money last March.
Yeah.
Haven't got around to it,
Yeah.
so the petition's vacant. I was wondering if, I think you guys are in charge of appointing the vacancy. I was wondering if that's something you could possibly do as something, get on a future agenda.
Yeah, I was gonna put it on, probably the agenda.
Yeah, Brian says we can, it'll be on the next agenda.
Next agenda, so next meeting where we have the library and all those?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, come, it'll be fun.
We'll do it.
Every once in a while, we can do something wrong.
Oh, no, I'm not here for the next one, poor Joe.
Okay, I guess we're down to upcoming events, and Thursday, July 28th is the DRB meeting here at the town offices at 6 o'clock. Saturday, the 29th, the annual Chamber of Commerce car show on the Village Green from 9 to 2. And then on Tuesday, August 1st, that is not our select board meeting. That is National Night Out, 5 to 8 at the Village Green, and it usually attracts a lot of people, and it's a nice event, so I hope people do go. And then Wednesday, the 2nd, we will have that special select board meeting at 6 p.m. here at the town offices. And then on Saturday, the 12th, a new thing for Swanton. And I know that Nicole and her staff have done a lot of work on this, and I think this could be a big thing for Swanton too. Is the first Swanton Corn Fest.
And it's 2 to 8, not 12 to 8.
Oh, and it's 2 to 8, and it will be at the Raleigh Athletic Fields, and there will be beer there.
And dancing.
And dancing.
Corn.
And corn.
One more event that I didn't know when we did this. It's Sunday, July 30th, open house at the Swanton Fire Department from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
So there's a lot of things going on in Swanton this month. Some new things like, especially the Corn Fest. That should be, I gotta check it out.
Are you gonna huck a cob, chuck a cob, or bob for a cob?
No, I'm just gonna look. I just wanna see.
You're missing out.
Well, depends who's doing it. You know, it might be fun watching.
It might also be in a corn costume.
So, we don't need executive session tonight, do we?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, then, I guess I'll wait for the big motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Now, you're moving to adjourn the meeting?
I am.
Okay, and that's, the motion been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.